through a book about what he said and thought that's not going well.
Well, aren't we all?
What book?
Oh, it's so somebody on the server recommended Richard Dean Winfield's book Hegel and the Future of Systematic Philosophy.
Mm.
So I'm literally going like 1 or 2 pages a day through it. It's like heavy stuff.
Oh, that's a good book. It's not too bad.
It does have some interesting ideas.
I hate niggas. I hate. Mute okay?
Yeah, right, man. You really took some time to get a soundboard.
Yo, anyone here think they have good morals?
Obviously,
Yeah, I think I'm natural.
They have good morals.
I think worthy of hellfire.
Like good positions as it relates to moral
Well,
questions?
yeah, I have good positions.
Would you say that you derive like your moral intuitions or facts from God?
Not in the way that you would think. God is the absolute.
Well, are you a theist? Would you say?
Yeah, but
Interesting.
theism is a conclusion, not a presupposition.
Do you think it's ever okay to force another being against his will purely for one's own pleasure?
No.
Oh. What would you say like your favorite ice cream flavor is?
It depends, man. It used to be chocolate, and
Right.
I don't know. I like butter pecan, but like it depends on like what, like it all really depends like what brand and whatnot, because like most brands suck.
Do you know where dairy comes from?
Theory, like the word theory.
Do you know where dairy comes from?
Oh. We're gonna talk philosophy, man.
Oh, what do you mean philosophy?
This is a room about philosophy. I mean, like,
yeah, it's about morality, right?
okay, so if you want to ask me if I think that it's moral to, have a cow get impregnated, well, you're not doing it for your pleasure. Look, one.
Wait, what?
Have you seen cows meet bulls?
Hold on. Yeah, I have actually.
Yeah, so they are not getting raped. They are not getting raped. They want it.
Wait, do you know? Wait, where do you live? Like, I would assume a Western country.
I live where there are cows. I can literally see them, in the fields.
Oh, I can too. Right, but that doesn't mean like that's where my dairy comes from, right?
Well, that's where. Who knows? Yeah, like with the way the logistics work today.
Beyond that, right? Let's say like they're mating happily and they're getting mounted on with no external pressure. Would you say it's ever okay to take away like the young of a mother so that you can steal the milk for your own pleasure?
As far as I know, we don't steal the milk. I mean, at least where I'm at, in California, there are rules. Like we don't have like those factory farms here.
There's actually not those rules that you think there are. Could you please like name one maybe?
Okay, did you hear where I'm from?
Yeah, California.
All right. So, what do you know about California?
Right, I know California is in the U.S. and there's no federal regulation, and as well.
Okay, are you aware that California is a state?
Has factory farms, right? I know that this is like not something that they stray away from necessarily.
Yeah, sure, yeah, but that's not the main thing. So.
What do you mean?
What's your point? Like, what is the principle?
Is that, like,
why don't you get to the principle? Wait, hold on.
You pay for people to exploit.
I don't give a shit. So let's make an actual like direct like argument here. So let's suppose I have a cow. Let's suppose I have a cow. Well, I don't need that. Like, let's just give the example, right? Because you're giving an example, but I don't care.
The example was that you would not be okay with someone taking away your mother's breast milk or farming your brother for her breast milk. So I am not sure why you think it's okay.
Because animals are not people. They have no rights.
Wait, animals have no rights, so you do think it's okay to like force another being against his will purely for one's own pleasure? Yes or no?
When you talk about beings, I'm assuming you're talking about moral beings, because you're not talking about rocks, right?
Oh, so you don't give animals moral consideration, you're saying?
Animals have no moral standing. Animals don't ask for moral standing. They don't give you moral standing.
Do you think it's okay to rape a dog for fun?
No, but it's not because of the animal.
No, why?
Because a proper human being is a loving being who does not destroy their own moral sentiments.
But why would this be relevant?
Okay, so if you love your mother, why would you hit your mother?
Yeah, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to hurt another
Okay,
being.
so then that's what I'm saying. If you're a human being and you're an actualized human being, why would you rape an animal?
Because you get pleasure out of it.
No, like that's the same thing. If you love your mother, why would you hit your mother? And you're like, well, because you get pleasure of it. So do you love your mother or do you not love your mother?
I do love my mother, and I think it's sufficient enough for me to like, give her moral consideration. This is the same for animals. It's not based off my love necessarily. I would say love is just a proxy to what I actually value. But I don't want to get into the weeds here, because like I just asked you, like, do you think it's okay to like, you think it's not okay to like rape a dog for your own pleasure, not because of like what the dog might experience, but rather because of like how it might corrupt your own morals? Am I getting you right?
Because
here?
it corrupts your own human nature. You have duties to yourself as a human being.
Right. So do you think like this duty is necessarily something where do you derive this from?
It's ontology. Once you know what the human being is, you know what you ought to be. And the ought is binding upon you.
Do you think a human being ought to be someone who like kills animals because they get the taste pleasure from them?
Given a certain context at a certain time, yeah. I think that as time moves on, it has moved on, people increasingly have become more actually human, believe it or not. And so that's why you have people now who have arguments like about veganism and like, people view animals as pets, and they give them consideration. But the reason they give them consideration, if you actually pay attention, it's not because they have any understanding that animals as such have any like moral standing. All of it really revolves around our moral sentiments about animals.
It revolves around, like, for example, my moral sentiment as it relates to causing unnecessary suffering. And so in this case, it would be like egregiously unnecessary suffering, and it would be especially for some like hedonistic pleasure, which I think is wrong. I think you would agree with me too. I mean, I don't know why like you're trying to defend your position here when.
Well, what do you mean? I'm trying to defend. I'm not. I haven't disagreed with anything you say. All I've said is like, if we do anything that you might consider moral with relation to animals, it's not because of the animals. It's because of us. And any example that you give me is always going to be because of us.
I want to put this to test. Like, what do you consider like because of us? Do you think like my position, so as it relates to like caring about this egregious suffering of animals, is because of us?
Yes.
Would you consider that in there?
Did the animals did the animals make an argument for you to care for them? Did they make a No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
Do you not think that like an animal clearly expressing biological signs of pain?
No, that's not an argument, buddy.
Wait,
you making noises.
Do you know what an argument is?
You making noises does not constitute a rational argument.
Well, so now you're adding in rationality, but I mean, I can.
Well, I'm adding it because apparently you're obstinate and like twisting words. Arguments are rational arguments.
A child can't like conduct some rational like.
Indeed, a child does not engage in rationality that way, which is why we don't let children choose their own shit. That's why we have parents that are in control of them. Do you understand that?
Right, I do understand that, but I can still infer based on their actions that they're making arguments and not being.
No, they're not. The actions do not constitute arguments. Where are you pulling this from? Nobody believes it.
It's implicit.
It is not implicit. That's not how arguments work.
What about? Do you think this the same is true for consent?
If I punch you in the face, is that an implicit argument for anything?
Wait, yeah, it is an implicit argument.
No. What is an argument for? Wait, hold on. What? No, that's not an argument. What is an argument for? Like, what is an argument as an argument for? Why do you make arguments?
You make an argument to get a point across.
It's not just to get a point across. What are you doing? You're justifying something. So if a punch in the face is an argument, what is it an argument for? How is it justifying anything? I'm just punching you. You can say it's an expression, but it's not an argument. It's not a justification.
Like, it could be like justifying your anger. It could be justifying your position.
A punch doesn't justify my argument. That doesn't even make sense. How does a punch justify your anger?
No, like a punch would justify your anger because, like, for someone to posit whether or not you have anger, if you were to punch someone, then they could infer from that that you do have anger, right? So the argument for whether or not you have anger would be the
That's
punch.
not an argument. So you make an
That's
inference
evidence,
that
not argument.
Yeah, if you make an inference from
Right.
my punch that I'm angry, that's not an argument for my anger. That's
Right,
an
yeah, I'm
inference
considering
on
an
your
implicit
part.
argument. Like, do you consider like the same?
It's not
standard
an
for
implicit
consent?
argument. You're making the argument. Oh, you punched me, therefore you must be mad. Yes, that is an argument, but that's from your standpoint. My punch is not an argument.
Do you have a similar position as it relates to consent?
Regarding
Like,
what?
do you think it's possible for someone to give implicit consent?
I think that by the necessities of what consent should mean on the whole, like on like an actual consent, I think that 99.99% of humans are incapable of consenting to anything. Because
So,
they
like-
don't know they don't know how to think. They don't know what the actual implications and complications and consequences of anything are. So just like we don't hold, we would say like for a 13-year-old, they can't consent to sexual intercourse for, anything because they don't actually understand all the intricate emotional and developmental consequences. If that applies to the 13-year-old and that's why they can't consent, then I could tell you 99% of humans can't consent either, no matter what age.
Right, there's a sufficient line that we draw, right? So would you consider yourself to be able to give consent?
I would say I can give consent on a few things, but on many things I would not be able to give consent because I would not understand the consequences or antecedents of what I'm doing.
Would you be able to like give consent if someone were to ask you if you want to have sex,
Sure, yeah.
but you don't know if like that will lead to a child who's like?
And you think
disabled or
fucking
whatever?
12-year-olds don't know that? You think like they're fucking like what? Like,
No, I'm asking
20
you.
IQ?
I'm saying like you don't know that. You don't know that your child might like have some sort of like crippling disorder that makes you suffer, and you obviously wouldn't want that. You not know about that before the sex. So are you unable to consent to the sex?
you can't play hypotheticals of that kind. So you're not God.
Oh,
And
is
if
this
you
like
were,
a dodge?
it's not a dodge. Like I don't play with like fake hypotheticals. Give me a real one.
You don't play with fake. This is a very plausible hypothetical.
It's not a plausible hypothetical. It's a fake one.
Are there not
You
disabled
you
people
don't
that
know.
exist?
No. So for anything that's going to happen of the future, you don't know unless you're God.
Right, and that was your exact argument with the 13-year-old who can't consent. So now I'm asking
No,
you,
no,
do you
no.
consent to
With
sex
with
because you don't know
with
the
with
future
sex,
implications?
you're not having sex to say like I'm going to have a daughter. You can't do that. In a couple of years you might be able to. According to some people, you already can. With a certain Israeli company that will sort out your sperm to make sure that you have a boy or a girl. So soon in the future, you will indeed be able to consciously have sex to get exactly what you want. But right now,
Right.
you don't. And so when you have sex and you know that the consequence is that you're not going to get exactly what you want, and you know that that's indeed part of the package, you can indeed consent to that open-endedness.
So let's get back to base here. Like, are you still of the position that it's okay to force an animal against its will for one's own pleasure?
You can do whatever with animals. Animals do whatever with each other. Like, does the wolf ask
Does
for the
that
consent?
justify-
Wait, hold on. No. We're not asking for justification because justification
Wait.
belongs to moral beings. Justification
Wait,
does not
wait.
belong to. Wait, hold on. So, or unless you agree with me that justification will only belong to beings that think and can respond to moral claims or make moral
I
claims.
mean, what do you mean justification? Like, could you give an example?
I don't mean anything different than what you're meaning. Like, it's a regular word.
Well, yeah, I'm not understanding what you're meaning. By justification, you're like
Okay,
justification.
you're asking for justification, moral justification, but you're asking it regarding a being that has no moral standing.
Okay,
Animals
this is
have
true
no
of a
moral
child as
standing.
well. They're like a toddler.
Children do have moral standing. They're human beings. We know that
What
they're
about
human
the-
beings.
wait, is this
Wait,
special
hold on.
breeding?
No, it's not. Listen, do you believe in kinds, or are you an
No, I don't
anti-essentialist?
believe in kinds. That's the retarded, like,
Okay,
Christian
so are you
bullshit.
are you a
Young
human
Earth
being?
creationists.
Are you a human being?
Yes, I'm a human being.
Oh, so you do believe in kinds?
Kinds is typically referred to like some Kent Horn bullshit where you would like consider
Kent
humans
Horn
to
did
be a
not invent
kind
kinds.
instead of a
Kinds was
species
invented
necessarily.
by Aristotle. Do you know that? Like, so
Obviously,
kind-
kinds and categories are not the same thing.
Wait, what do you mean? Obviously, they're not the same thing.
I'm saying to him, you're using humankind as you're using human as a category. He's using it as a kind and conflating the two.
Categories and kinds are the same thing.
I guess he's making a distinction there, but I wouldn't even know like what distinction could be made there. Like if you're using kind to be like
a kind is an essence, which would be an ontological category.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, yeah, I'd reject that.
So you're not a human being? There's no such thing as a general human ontology? You don't know how to recognize what a human being is? Differ. So you don't know that you're talking to a human being right now because you don't have an understanding of what a general human ontology is.
Like, are you using ontological and like
the being, the structure of being, way, right? just the structure of being. Like there's a structure of what it is to be a human being.
Right, but it's not related to like a branch of metaphysics.
It doesn't matter what words you're using. So is there a structure to what it is to be a human being, or is there not? And do you fit that structure?
Sure, there is a structure because that's how human being is defined.
Do you think that you're the one who makes up your genetics, that your genetics don't actually operate within a bound of, actual recognitive rules, not conceptual like mental rules, but actual like operative rules?
Yeah, it's like rules based in reality, yeah.
Okay, so then how are you in denial of kinds then? So if your sperm and your eggs know, and what by know I don't mean like representational know, I just mean like an operational, reality there. If they engage in a process by which they can tell what is and isn't going to be a valid thing that will make a human being when they unite, or an invalid thing, because when it's invalid, right, they're just a failure to have a human being. There's no fertilization, nothing. You can try to make it a cat with a dog. It won't happen. Why? Because they're not the same kind.
Right. So are you saying like being of this kind, which I would consider a category, but if not, whatever, being of this kind is what like allows us to rape them or kill them for our own pleasure?
I would say rape is never allowed in that way. Like
so
not for animals nor for humans. And again, it goes back to being human. It does not go to the animals. We know that animals, we know that animals force each other, like, all the time. So, like, animals don't have any consent or rape.
Humans are animals and they force each other all the time.
No, humans aren't animals. Humans are mental, spiritual beings. We have reason.
Oh, you're off the far end, buddy.
Oh, I'm off the far end. Well, you're having an argument with me. Have you ever had an argument with an animal?
Like, by implicit, I would consider like
no. We're not going back to your implicit bullshit. A punch is not an argument. A bark is not an argument.
An argument with you. Yes, I've never had an argument with an animal. Sure.
Right, and I'll tell you, you will never have an argument with an animal, because if you had an argument with an animal, it would not be an animal.
That's quite the reach. Like, you don't think it's possible for any animal to formalize any type of argument?
Show me one.
Show you one? Like, you don't think any of our great apes, for example, Neanderthal,
show me one.
For example, Neanderthal, you don't think they would be able to in any case?
No.
Form it. So do you know, like, this would be our ancestor, and I can just show you, like, a branch of it? A species that would, like, branch off of Neanderthals that could form rational thought at some point? Sorry, Neanderthals are not ancestors necessarily, but they're very closely related.
Well, they're ancestors to the Europeans,
Right. I'm just saying, like, you can't conceive of another species that is not necessarily Homo sapien that could like formalize some rational argument.
The whole like appearance of argumentation, as we understand it, like, is relatively recent in human experience. Like, have you ever heard of the bicameral mind hypothesis?
No.
That posits that human self-reflection and self-consciousness, which is required for like the very capacity to understand that you have a reasoning capacity in the first place, didn't really come about until like a couple thousand years ago. Maybe about 4,000 years or so. And that before that, people just did not have this capacity. People did not have thoughts about being or causality or pure categories of this kind that are purely abstract. Things fell up, they came down. You had like animals, but like animals is not like this pure category. It's something that's kind of sensuously like there, and so people just kind of associate things. I think people had that, but I don't think that for most of human history, people have even had the capacity to think abstractly.
Right. I don't know how this, like, yeah, I could agree with you. I just don't know how it's relevant to like whether
So,
or not.
so if we went back and we had a Neanderthal, I don't think you could have any rational discourse with a Neanderthal.
Right, so do you think it'd be okay to like rape them in mass?
No. Why do you keep bringing this up? I already told you
sorry,
no.
not rape, because even though you do it all the time, you're against it, whatever. Would you think it'd be okay to like kill them for your own pleasure purely?
With animals, we can do that, yeah.
But
wait. But it is within the pleasure of eating. It's not from the pleasure of killing. You can't just kill animals wantonly. That's inhuman.
What is the like distinction between the pleasure of eating and the pleasure of killing?
The pleasure of eating at least serves a purpose towards your own self-maintenance. You can justify it as just being part of the natural cycle. But hold on, I'm not done. So I'm gonna explain. But the pleasure of just killing, like I'm against like killing for a sport, like sport hunting. I think that is cruel and inhuman.
Why?
To the animals, it doesn't matter. But for a human being, because human beings are rational creatures, they do things for reasons.
Right.
And
the reason there is obviously is fun. You get some adrenaline.
No, that's not a reason. Human reasons are categorical reasons. So happiness, for example, is not an actual thing that you feel. Happiness is a judgment you make about a totality of feelings.
Do you not think dopamine is
so happiness and pleasure are not the same thing, for example. So human beings indeed live for happiness and do things towards the end of happiness. And happiness is a completely spiritual ideal. It's not an actual empirical thing that you experience.
Really? Even though I could point to the chemicals.
Oh boy, we're doing this again. We did this yesterday.
That's fine.
Do I need to show you the meme?
Now,
do I need to show you the meme about the brains and chemicals?
Yeah, I mean you could show me that meme, but it wouldn't really be.
Well, I'll show it to you. Like it's too funny.
Credence to your point.
It doesn't. It does give credence to my point because it's pretty funny
as it relates to most moral questions.
Maybe you can ask, like, for example, I was in Corsica and I was snorkeling, and then I wanted to shoot an octopus for dinner, and I shot that octopus and he fighted, and I really saw that octopus is fighting for his life. Wasn't this an argument by itself? So I shot him and he fought for his life.
Right, I would consider that an implicit argument. Yep.
That's not an argument. Where do you people get this? Like, when did this start happening? Like, I've never heard anybody even say this.
Your point.
No, it is not. That's not what an argument is. An argument is specifically a premise conclusion in which you have a major premise, minor premise,
that's a
conclusion.
Argument, yes.
No, that's what an argument is. There is no other form of argument. If you're using that word in a different way,
my argument would be
corrupting
that
what that word means.
Was really fighting for his life, and I could see that he wanted to survive.
So what? That's not an argument. That's just an observation.
Yeah, that's definitely an observation, but it's a fact. So it's an argument by itself.
That's not an argument.
I mean, when I obviously saw something, then I can tell that's an argument.
No, okay. So there's you making an argument to justify, like, okay, the octopus is fighting me. That's the same thing the other guy said before you came in. That's you making an argument. But he said, and what you initially seem to be saying, is that the octopus fighting you is itself an argument. No, it's not. You make an argument through inferences about that, sure. But the octopus itself is making no argument. It's just acting.
Yeah, fighting for his life is an argument.
Oh my God, man! We're not going to have this discussion. Look up what the definition of argument is. It's fine if you don't believe me, but at least believe universities where people have PhDs and like know more than you do, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Whatever you think, though.
Yeah, whatever, man. Like, if you want to be ignorant, that's your problem. That's not my problem.
At this point, I think you are more ignorant than...
At this point, you're muted, because we're not going to have a meta discussion about you being indignant about being called an ignorant when you're openly being ignorant and proud of it. You're exactly why the world is going to shit, Don't be surprised. Did the other guy leave? Yes, he did. Anybody else here want to have a discussion? Bro, I was... okay, man. Some people. Oh, what? So one of my friends is telling me he actually liked Nolan's Odyssey. Ooh.
Did you
That's a
hate
dilemma. That's a no, I haven't seen it. I did not plan to see it, but this friend I do trust. We share some taste, so that he's into philosophy. He knows the stuff that I'm into. So
well, what would make you like it or dislike it?
I don't know, man. I don't have like a checklist for things. Like I'm not that way.
Have you read the original book?
The Odyssey, like 30 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool.
I mean, I watched like the 80s movies or something a long time ago. I mean, I can't say that I remember much of it. I don't think I hate it. I mean, it's like I don't know. Greek stuff, I can recognize it's good, but it doesn't draw me. I just haven't felt like actually going through that stuff, but I should.
The Greek literature doesn't draw you, or Greek works in general?
Greek classical works. I mean, like they're good. I recognize they're good. When people talk about them, I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't feel like reading them or anything.
I would say the
Greek
same about Eastern stuff. Like, I wish I knew more about Confucius. You know,
bro, like Confucius will take you like 30 minutes to read. Like, there's not much. Like
really?
the analects are very short.
Okay. Well, I don't know about it.
Yes, I mean, they're very short. It's just like little sayings. Like, they're good.
Well, I found the Odyssey interesting just to think about how it was playing with Greek culture and like what it was trying to reflect on there. Because obviously the Odyssey is so, I mean, like it's barely even a story. You know, it's all about its whole purpose is reflecting Greek culture.
Sorry to interrupt you. Is that the new movie that I haven't seen yet?
Okay, yeah, it's the new Nolan movie.
Is it good?
Well, my friend says it's good, so you know what? That interests me.
It's been reviewed well, and I saw it. I thought it was. I mean, I don't really like movies, but I thought it.
Well, so the professional reviewers are like always reviewing this kind of shit well, so I don't trust them. But
so
I also don't trust the public on high art because a lot of people rated Dune highly, and I hate Dune. I think Dune is one of the worst movies ever made.
I also don't like Dune. Correct.
Yeah, I think it's one of the worst movies ever made. The first part is the worst movie I have ever seen. Like, full stop. I've never seen anything worse than this. But people were wowed visually by it. They're like, oh, but it looks so amazing. I'm like, but it's such an empty movie. Like, this movie is like watching like somebody who read like an outline of a script and just kind of like went through the motions. It to me, like the way I describe it, it's a plot without a world, without like characters.
It's Christopher Nolan, right?
Yeah, it's the new one. So a lot of people
liked.
Is
he also the Inception guy?
Yeah, he was.
Did he do Inception? Okay.
Yeah, Inception, The Dark Knight.
I don't think I've liked
I thought that was overrated. I didn't like it. I mean, I didn't hate it, but like, it's overrated.
If you're looking for high art, I don't think you will like it. The only reason I liked it was because I found it entertaining to like think about it in context with Greek culture and like how he was trying to work with that. I think if you just looked at it purely for what it is, it would, I don't know, it'd be kind of boring. Pretty though. I don't know. It's well shot, I guess. But again, I'm not a movie person, so I don't. I
see.
Can't give you much on that.
So I mean, everybody's been hating on that, and I just assumed I was
Have they?
gonna maybe see it like once it came out for free on the internet, but I might go see it in the
I've only
theaters.
seen it in the news in the terms of like in my hometown, the IMAX theater, I guess, broke. And they were like, you could do this over in Denver. And the Denver theater was like, nah, this sucks. So I guess it broke. I think it broke theaters.
Oh, yeah, it's been incredibly popular. Incredibly popular.
Yep. Anybody here interested in the topic of God, morality, epistemology?
I'll talk to you about all three of those, but I can't have a dog barking.
Well, I don't have a dog barking, but somebody else does.
Sounds like more than one.
Yep. Annoying yappy dogs. Anyways, do you think we can have actual knowledge?
Do you have any formal education in philosophy, Antonio? I'm just curious.
I did like philosophy 101 classes, but like otherwise I'm an autodidact.
Does it matter?
No, it doesn't.
No, I was just curious.
I mean, people think that given like what I engage in, like I at least have a bachelor's. All right. What about free will? Anybody here have views on free will or determinism? Yes, no?
Have you seen the studies that reading a article on determinism makes participants engage in more behavior they would consider immoral in like closed testing?
No, I had not heard about that. That doesn't surprise me. It's just like,
I can get you a link to that if you find it particularly interesting.
I've not heard of it, but I would not be surprised, as the gentleman said.
Yeah, because it's the same thing. Like, I mean, like when I became an atheist, right? Like, you know, once the whole weight of like the guilt of sin and God is gone, like you really have nothing stopping you except whatever it is that, you know, you intuitively find good or not. And so for a lot of people, like their good is like, well, so long as I enjoy it, I'll fuck everybody else. And if I can get away with it, great.
Well, I think there are non-religious philosophies that people hold just as strongly as religious ones. I mean, obviously there are, but obviously also most people who go from religious to secular do not then immediately go over to Kantianism or something.
Even then, Kantianism is pretty open. I mean, like you can formulate a categorical imperative for many things which aren't even contradictory. So, like,
they're also not going
kind
to know.
Choose,
you know, like
you choose your
they're
poison,
not going to choose
you
like,
want.
oh, nowadays I went from a person who doesn't know to like, now I know Kant. No one knows Kant. No one knows this. They don't know what they are.
Exactly. So someone's usually going to go from having something to having nothing and not specifically replace the psychological role that has for them, like Nietzsche described on a societal scale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but like with like the Kantian example, for example, even if you're aware of Kant, that doesn't really solve much because now you have to decide which categorical imperatives you're going to go. You can have a categorical imperative like don't steal. But then there's nothing immoral about just not having property, period. You know, just not accepting the category of property. Now what?
Well, I still think, I mean, under the current system, I don't see how stealing could not violate the categorical imperative.
Yeah, but the categorical imperative is not based on your current society. It's just based on absolute moral principles, like of identity. So, like, the categorical imperative doesn't tell you what principles you should make the principles of identity here.
I haven't read Kant yet. My understanding is that, like, the classical question in that is what would happen if everyone did this? As an extremely oversimplified version, right?
Yeah.
So isn't that contextual? I mean,
yeah, but the thing is
that you're doing something in a context, and that is universal.
Right.
That
and
relationship.
like the thing is, like, there's two ways to go about that. One of them is to interpret this as the golden rule, and believe it or not, there are crazy people out there who are totally fine with saying, well, I'm totally fine with other people getting away with murder, and if I can get away with murder, they're like, I'm totally fine with that world. And so suddenly, by that standard, they would believe, oh, well, then my categorical imperative goes through. I'm not being a hypocrite. I'm not holding myself to a different standard to anybody else. Now, that's not what Kant means, but this is what a lot of people do understand by that.
Yeah.
What Kant means is that it's logically inconsistent.
That's impossible. If you had a society where everyone steals, then that's a paradox, right? That wouldn't be like, it would break down the concept of stealing. The same with lying. If a society where everyone always lies, that's not, like, possible.
I think that's half true. Yeah, I mean,
the lying is a better example. It's the more classic one.
But even then,
I don't know about that. Go ahead.
Well, even then, like, there's a whole thing called what is it? Is it axioms? What he calls them? No, it's not axioms. He doesn't call them axioms. Maxims, yeah. Maxim fiddling.
Yep.
Where people go like, well, what if I define this particular action in a very specific way such that everybody else can get away with it, but it seems a pretty negative action nonetheless. And nothing about the imperative tells you what the limits of those are. Now, I do think there are limits, but Kant doesn't mention them. I think there are categorical limits rather than like propositional limits.
Well, I just mean that if someone adopted their version of that, I'm not saying that they take, Kant as full gospel, but that they could formulate a structure that to them feels like objective, feels reasonable, and feels unchanging, at least just as much as a religion would be. I think that would lead them to similar outcomes, or say with, I don't know.
A question that might not have any kind of answer, and maybe not even a smart way to discuss it, but I'm just curious. What do you think? What do you think Kant would say about our dear president, Donald J. Trump?
I don't care, man.
He would hate
really
him, obviously. But, I mean, that obviously he would not like him. I don't think most
I'll go ahead and give you some things. I think Kant would be for something about like the EU, but not in the way that the EU exists. He would be for obviously the League of Nations or the United Nations, but not in the way that they exist right now. He would be, for example, for immigration control. There would be a lot of things in which Kant would be Kant would not be pro-gay. I'm sorry, he just wouldn't. He literally has an argument against it explicitly, in which if everybody think about it, if everybody engages in gay sex, nobody's having kids, therefore that's bad. So don't take it too straightforward that he would hate him. He wouldn't like him. I don't think he would completely disagree with everything he was doing.
And no, I take you. I'm a anti-Trumpian, but I also I don't think Kant would be the best.
Yeah, I don't know. But to go back to what you said earlier, so a person loses God, and they still have the options of some semblance of an objective morality. But what I pointed out about maxim fiddling is that having the categorical imperative or utilitarianism doesn't tell you what actually is the basis and what you should be running through that formalism, because you can run property into it, you can run not property into it, you can run care into it, you can run like uncaring, like libertarian, selfish uncaring, mutual indifference through it, and it'll work just fine for all of those. And so it ultimately does come down into whatever you're comfortable with is what you're going to be comfortable with ultimately. And then, there is a degradation that happens that, like, once you don't have an objective rail to keep you in a certain way, and you don't see reasons for why not to do any certain things, you do exactly what follows, which is, even if you're uncomfortable with certain things, since you can't justify not doing them, you let yourself be peer pressured into engaging things that you otherwise would never have engaged in. And then because you do break down the psychological barriers eventually, you become okay with it. And you're like, oh, well, everything's fine. Even though it, from an objective standpoint, it may actually
not. So that would be nihilism. You think that everyone who loses, who doesn't have a theism, would descend into moral nihilism?
Well, I mean, I think like Nietzsche's position that, even with theism, people already are nihilistic is true. It's just like the nihilism is kept at bay to a certain extent with the religious standpoint, but it's still kind of nihil. Like, his whole point was that Christians were like the first nihilists because, like, they hated the world. They were unworldly.
Well, I guess that applies. Well, then that would have been my next question. How does this differ? I don't understand what the primary distinction is of what,
because at least
how this is different from religion.
Because at least the religious person believes in a transcendental purpose, even if it's not a worldly purpose here. So they can be nihilist about this world, but they're not nihilist metaphysically. Whereas the person who doesn't have religion at all, like, you're a nihilist through and through, and like you don't even have like a hope of another world or anything like that. So you're just nihilist completely.
Well, what about eternal return?
I mean, to me, like, that's just an empty thing. So if it's the case, nothing changes. If it's not the case, nothing changes. It's one of those things, like, what if you're a brain in a vet? Well, if it's the case,
that might be
nothing
your
changes.
personal response to it, but I'm saying that if others believe that, could that not be the basis of that in their worldview? I mean, I don't think we see this. Do you think Kant was a moral nihilist? Well, actually, wait, was Kant was...
No, he was not a moral
Didn't
nihilist.
Kant sort of not talk about religion or hide that he was a-religious? What was the deal with that?
No, Kant believed in God. It's just like Kant believes in the philosopher's God, more than... He wasn't a dogmatic Christian, and like his views of God are like very rationalist. He's typical like philosophical theist.
Okay.
He openly and this wasn't just like, oh well, he publicly didn't talk about it. No, even in his private like notes, like up until his death, like he was talking about God, and he was talking about God pretty much in the same way he always talked about God, which is just God is kind of like the rational principle of reality. And I think like I was reading earlier that in his like posthumous opus, which was the last thing that he was working on, he was like having ideas like God is like our own reason, like manifest in the practical domain of morality. And prior he had been saying like, well, like in his views of religion is in the Critique of Pure Reason is that God is the an idea of reason which is required for us to like engage in moral action, because we believe that through God goodness can be consummated, because without a guarantor that my actions ultimately lead to like good consequences, why would I do anything good?
Well, what do you mean good consequences? I mean, there are people who, I mean, you seem to hint at this argument earlier, the argument of virtue ethicists and eudaimonists, that certain behavior is necessary to build the right soul and to build the right mind, and that sort of creates its own version of like an inherent direct connection.
Well, to answer that
is
first
that
part,
not what?
Can I answer that first part, and then you can get to the second part?
Yes.
Okay, so the first part about like what I mean by consequences. With Kant, like even though Kant is not a consequentialist in the typical sense, like Kant is not about empirical consequences. Like you do duty because it's your duty, you do the right thing because it's right. But he is a kind of consequentialist. He says like, but if duty never aligned or generally did not align with actual good consequences, people just wouldn't do it. So, and obviously we live in a world in which we don't see that there is like a one-to-one correlation between good actions and good consequences. Good people suffer, bad people will, get away with it. And so he says part of the idea of God is that God is this ultimate balancing point in which, justice will be had. That ultimately my good actions will have good consequences, even if it's not immediately in this world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
okay,
that's
right. And so I think that makes it very relevant to the position of the like Aristotelian eudaimonists and sort of like atheistic dharmic perspectives, that your behavior is directly shaping your own sort of soul, for lack of a better word, not necessarily with spiritual connotations, your own spirit, and that you will have a very direct impact on yourself from how that is tailored through behavior.
Sure, yeah.
That if you ever do something wrong, it will hurt you, and it always will. It will change your spirit, your mind in this certain way. There's no need for karma. There's no escaping it.
Kant has something like that. I mean, Kant has his own version of virtue. Like, people don't know this. I did not know this.
Because I'm thinking more of like Socrates saying that the tyrant is always universally the least happy person in his city.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you're busy, if your position depends upon keeping others away from your position, you're always at war with everybody, and nobody's truly your friend. You're a very lonely person.
That's part of it. But in terms of direct consequences, universal consequences from behavior, I'm thinking more of what word would he use? I think they use the word character, or that's the better translation. That the tyrant is someone who has shaped himself to be dependent on these hollow things, that he needs and is dependent on what he extracts from those around him. He abuses others because he has to, and that abuse sort of corrodes and corrupts his own spirit, and makes him incapable of true happiness, and it makes him incapable of the kind of happiness that others have. It's never enough. It's always a hollow pleasure for him, and that every action you take pushes you more or less in one direction. That those sort of materialistic or what we might call viceful pleasures corrode your character, your very self, and make you less capable of happiness.
Yeah, I agree with it. I mean, Kant also agrees with it. Like Kant, for example, Kant has an interesting argument against cruelty to animals, and it's not because like he believes that animals have any moral importance. He doesn't. He explicitly says like the reason not to do this is mainly because you're hurting your own moral sentiments. That a human being is a sympathetic being. It's an empathetic being. If you're harming animals, you're already like harming this thing that universally affects others. And even if you are a psychopath, right, who already doesn't have an actual like intuition of these morals, like norms that people would have, the fact that you already don't have them is already a harm to you. So it's not even about like, oh, but you will harm other people. The loss of it is itself a harm to you. Becoming accustomed to cruelty is itself a harm to your own moral character, which is a harm to your human being and human dignity as such.
Yeah, it's similar to that, and I assume he takes direct inspiration from that. Again, I haven't read Kant yet. So with that argument, and I guess we don't have a lot that Socrates wrote. The way he talks about God is sort of odd, and doesn't make it entirely clear what his beliefs are. But he talks about a God, though also commits clear blasphemy towards the concept. But I think Socrates' ideas hold up completely from a secular standpoint, and that idea that there is almost, what could be crudely called like an internal karma, that there is no such viceful behavior without a direct psychological consequence. Would that not fulfill the same role that believing in an eternal reward, or the having trust that a god is lining up all the scores and making sure things are as they should be?
Ultimately, no. Because this is like the big division between like pagan religions, even at their highest form. Because like there is a kind of a pagan monotheism, which is kind of the religions of the One, the Tao, Nirvana and whatnot, Brahman in the Hindu form, in which both atheists and theists recognize there is this grand ultimate unity of all things that is just transcendental to everything. But it doesn't do anything. So, if it's just a thing, and that thing has no actual relationship to you beyond your own cognizance of it and cognizance of, mediated effects, which are blind forces, occurring upon you and everything else. Most human beings do not have a love of reason that it was going to overcome like the momentary fact that, well, I'm in pain right now. I really want this thing right now. I can get away with it. Maybe I don't, but it seems most likely I will. And I think most people, the vast majority, will ultimately succumb to their desires because their own desire for reason is not enough to motivate that. Whereas if you believe that God is some kind of like personal entity, which is going to engage in ultimately setting things right, even though for a long time they seem very wrong, that gives a very different outlook. Because even the karmic outlook, look at India, man. Plenty of people that believe in karma, they still don't give a fuck. They still will fuck other people over. They don't care that's going to come back to them, even if they believe it will come back to them. But it'll come back to them, one lifetime later, 2 lifetimes later, and they'll deal with it when it comes. And they're like, well, they're dealing with their karma already right now, so they don't care. So clearly, that idea of like karma isn't really motivational for most people.
Doesn't that happen in Abrahamic countries as well? Do you think that?
Yeah, I think like
Muslims and Christians on large would rather starve than steal because it breaks the 10 Commandments.
No, yeah,
I don't think that's unique to them.
I think like for the vast majority of people, they really don't believe in God. Look, if people really believed in hell, they would be crippled by anxiety, and the people who really do believe in hell are crippled by anxiety. They're the kind of people who are always like trying to like live a perfect life to a T and like worried about every single little detail. They can't chill. Everything is always of the most important, because like every little thing is your whole eternal salvation or damnation rests upon it. So I think like ultimately those things don't motivate people, though one of those does a better job at motivating people. Look at what we have with the societies that come out of Christianity. I think are unquestionably qualitatively better than the societies that came out of, the pagan like world. There are some like virtuous pagans, yes, but like.
Yeah, but there's a million. When you're talking about something as extraordinary complex as all of history's development, hard to isolate those variables.
Yeah, and like they have their golden age. Each one has their golden age. You had an old golden age in which, like, the now backwards like rules of the Brahmins in India were once progressive, probably for sure.
Yeah, and China had been the world's foremost, most developed civilization for far longer than Europe has now been.
Yeah.
You know what I just thought of? It never occurred to me till now. China's never really got a bad rap for like human sacrifice and shit like that. Not to bring up anything contentious.
Oh, you don't know anything about the history of China, buddy.
No,
I didn't know that they did that.
But in the context of like to the gods, kind of, you know what I mean. But yeah, that's,
I mean, like, there's
Maybe
something. Well, no, like for one, as far as I know, they didn't have human sacrifice. But what they did, and just like the Indians, they have a complete disregard for human life. Like, you're just another number. Like, it doesn't, like, a lot of like the legal punishments are just like absolutely like insanely cruel.
Isn't that kind of
because you don't
then?
matter. No, not
You're
to the
just
same
saying they're more
extent. So? Yeah, more so. Like India and China both like had like rule sets which were like extreme and cruel, and just like people didn't matter. You were just another number. Nobody cares.
And you think the rest of the world didn't?
At the time, for one, most of the rest of the world was like fucking like not civilized in any common sense. They were people living in
You're talking about like 5,000
roaming.
Like you're talking about like 5,000 AD.
Yeah, we're talking about like when India was at its peak. 3000 BC or some shit. Like same thing with like China. China gets its peak. Yeah, whatever. India is ancient. At least like they claim to be extremely ancient. So like, give it that much.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough.
It's interesting that you bring up the Brahmin social caste and stuff, because it kind of occurred to me the parallel between the Buddha as a figure against kind of that, and Jesus as a figure against like the Pharisees and stuff. There's an interesting parallel with the Buddha and Jesus. Anyway,
I agree with it. They're both kind of sacrificial in their own way, I guess.
Yeah, they're both just like one guy up against like an ancient, like hierarchical.
Are you talking about Siddhartha Gautama, or like because the Buddha?
Yeah, no shit. That's who I'm fucking talking about. I said the Buddha.
I was just saying, there's a lot of iterations of Buddha. I don't know.
All right, bro. This guy needs to get muzzled badly.
All right, I can muzzle myself. I'm sorry, dude. Not bad.
No, that's fine, dude. Like, you can talk.
I say the Buddha. Like, who the fuck else am I talking about except the Buddha? There's one, like the Buddha.
So there's not just one. There's Maitreya Buddha. There's Shakyamuni Buddha. They're like the fucking like thousands of Buddhas.
There's a lot, but
those are all like different names given to the same figure. Like different kind of like the Hotai Buddha, the Shakyamuni Buddha. Those are all referring to Siddhartha Gautama.
Oh, Shakyamuni is Siddhartha. That's Shakyamuni was the clan he was from.
Yeah. Well, then we're talking about the same individual.
That proves his point more than mine.
Yeah. Just whatever. Forget it.
No, you're good, man. I mean, you're not wrong. I'm just sorry to be pedantic about it. It's just.
I thought isn't Buddha a title that has been given to multiple different people?
Well, technically,
but obviously, when we
the
Westerners
first one,
say that in this context, that's what we.
Yeah, the first guy is the guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're an enlightened being, they call you a Buddha. But when I say the Buddha, like with the definite article in front of it, like who else am I talking about except the guy, like the Buddha? So I don't there shouldn't have been any confusion there.
There are degrees of enlightenment. People don't know that.
Did they I remember hearing back in the day, not that long ago. I don't know, like the 20 teens or something. Like China was trying to find the Buddha, like the incarnation or whatever, and steal him or something. Did they ever do that?
No, it's just the Chinese are legalists even about the spiritual world, and this has always been the case. So the Chinese the Chinese government made a law that when the next Dalai Lama reincarnates, he has to reincarnate as an already one of the pre-chosen children available in China. Otherwise, it won't consider him legitimately the Dalai Lama.
Okay. I totally
like,
misunderstood that.
to the Chinese government, like this is just a legal dispute. Like is like,
Okay.
I mean, if you know Chinese culture, like they are the Middle Kingdom. You know, they have both governance over the earthly realm and the spiritual realm. So,
To be honest with you, I'm not very familiar with Chinese culture.
you should. I mean, it's pretty whack. Whack in a good way. Also a bad way, but mostly in a good way.
Hey, was the you ever seen that movie Hero?
Yeah.
Was that Chinese propaganda? Well, somebody told me it was. Like one of my Chinese friends, he was like, "Oh yeah, that's complete Chinese propaganda."
Hero was about the first emperor, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Jin dynasty or whatever. But yeah,
it was.
It's like all about uniting the whole country under one.
Yeah, it was all propaganda. But that's the thing. Like, it's propaganda both ways. Like, what do people expect? Like, Americans make a movie. What are they gonna do? Like, make America look bad? No, like we have American movies that make America look good. Of course, the Chinese are going to make a movie that shows the founder as good.
Fuck yeah.
So I mean, like this isn't anything. It isn't anything new. You know what is it? In the Three Kingdoms? In the Three Kingdoms, for example, Cao Cao is considered like generally bad, but then like
you want to hear something embarrassing? Hero fucking made me kind of come to tears on a fucking plane. That's the first time I watched it.
That's good, man. There's nothing wrong with.
Have you ever heard? No.
It seems like everything here has been presupposed already.
You ever heard like the idea that like when you're on a plane, you're emotionally susceptible because like you're like really close to other people and you're in like a tin can flying through the air.
That's a very good argument, but I'm gonna say something to be honest about that argument. Lame shit. Lame shit. Nerd shit.
Let's get back to philosophy, please. This is a philosophy chat. It's like you're interested in philosophy.
Yeah, the argument isn't bad, but he was making if it is a philosophy chat, he was making various presuppositions in his argument.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're
China is not a philosophical topic, so don't care.
Well, it actually is. Philosophy is questioning reality. And according to Garwithian ethics,
can you give me an argument? Can you give me an argument for why philosophy is questioning reality?
Morality, if you want. Yeah, I can give you an argument for objective morality if you want.
All right, sure. Let's go.
Okay, are you an agent?
Am I an agent? I represent Tree Man. Sure, I'm his agent.
No, are you an agent?
I'm an
agent.
Are you a
moral agent? Do you act with rationality?
What does rationality have to do with morality?
Well, it has to do with everything because you'd be caught in a contradiction if you don't.
Yeah, okay, and why
what grounds right in your worldview?
Well, are you asking you said that you were going to give me an argument, so I'm waiting for the argument.
Yeah, but you didn't even want to grant premise one, which you should have said yes.
Wait, why do I have to grant anything?
If you can't define the fucking premises, then why?
Okay, here's premise one. Are you an agent?
That's not a premise. That's a question.
A premise is a proposition.
Philosophy. No.
How about you define agent? How about
a proposition. Wait. Hold on.
There's premise one.
Okay. Now what?
Okay. Do you grant premise one at least?
No. Okay. What does an agent mean? Why should I have to grant it?
You're talking about philosophy, and you don't even know what agency is.
Well, you don't know what a proposition is. So I mean, who has the problem here?
I made a proposition in premise one.
You're an agent, okay? So why should I grant that if you haven't told me what an agent is?
Wait, how do you?
Hey, Mary, if you can't get to your premise within like the next 3 sentences,
hold on, wait,
I think we'll ignore you.
Out of respect, I just granted that because you're having in a philosophy chat that you would know what an agent is. I'm not going to get into what an agent. Do you want to do that?
You want to go around in circles.
Okay,
and
wait.
Attention and everything. And
I would just say, yeah, you know what an agent is. You're a philosopher.
Okay.
Anyways, get to your fucking point.
Wait, Travis, hold on. Okay. Let me talk to him. So let me just make one point.
You are an agent, right?
Okay, you know that there are various theories of what agents are. So which one are you asking about?
Got it. You are capable of rational decision making. You hold first-person subjective experience, correct?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, good. So you're an agent. See how we could have gotten rid of that very easily?
Continue.
How easy it is. Now, in order to achieve your goals, do you need freedom and well-being?
What is freedom according to you?
Yeah, the ability to act with volition.
What is volition here?
Yeah, choosing what to do. As in saying, I want to eat an apple, I want to eat a carrot, I want to eat a banana.
What is your model of choice here?
Yes, the ability to pick between things.
You just repeated it. I'm asking, what is your model of choice? How do you explain how you choose?
Yes, by being able to decipher between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
You just repeated it for the third time. How do you explain how you can choose? What does that mean?
Yes, the ability to be able to basically differentiate between different things.
You just repeated it for the fourth time.
Are you unable to understand?
Yeah, but wait. Choice, do you not think that choice would be foundational?
No. You need to, if you can't explain what a choice is, then you can't show me that there is such a thing as choice.
Well, I explained it, but choice would be foundational, would it not?
No.
Mary is a
then what would it be?
attention vampire.
Okay, are you a libertarian? Like, do you believe in like libertarian?
No. But answer my question. I answered yours.
I'm gonna answer. So
you didn't answer goddamn fucking question.
Travis, I'm gonna mute you. I'm gonna mute you, Travis.
You asked me what choice was, and I told you what it was.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And I asked you like how. You can tell me. It's like saying square circle. You can tell me that.
No, it's not.
And well, no, it is. So you can tell me that, and if you don't explain to me, I'm just going to assume you're talking about unintelligible shit.
Explain to you what, though? What do you need to explain?
All right. So if you want me to understand what you mean by choice, like if I tell you square circle, there is actually, by the way, one way to understand a square circle. It's called a cylinder. Looks square on one side, looks circular on another thing. It's both a square and a circle. There you go.
Yeah, and there's a way to understand choice. An option and that's between multiple things.
You're just repeating the same thing. That's not an explanation.
So, well, that would be the definition, right?
Quite literally.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. I can accept that that's the definition, but now you need to give me an explanation as to how that even makes sense. It's like a car, right? You can tell me that a car.
Wait. Why would I need an explanation if it's foundational? If I asked you to explain,
things are not foundational
because
things are not foundational because you say they're foundational.
No, they are though.
No, they're not.
Are you having an experience right now?
What does experience have to do with this? I'm asking you about volition, and you said it's
a
capacity to choose.
Right now?
Why are you dodging the question? I'm still asking. What is your model of volition?
Saying that it's just capacity to choose. Let's go into the black hole.
Are you having
an experience right now?
That's not the black hole. I'm in the black hole, and you're outside.
No,
I'm bringing you in. So
let's go in there. Are you having an experience right now?
No. Look, man. I'm going to give you one more chance. We can have a discussion. I don't mind that we disagree. I don't mind that you have a different definition, but I'm asking you to explain what you mean. Repeating yourself is not an explanation. I'm asking you to give me the model, to give me how choice works. Saying that you have choices, that it's picking, it's just saying the same shit. You're word swapping. So can you just tell me how?
Got it. Choice works by an agent having multiple options and picking one or the other.
Wonderful. You repeated it for the 5th time. So you're just words.
Yeah, how else does choice work? Explain it to me then.
So
what
you
other
can't
model
tell,
would you have that's different?
So let me tell you what the problem is. You're not telling me how choice works at all. Therefore, you're not showing me that choice is anything real that I should take seriously.
Okay, got it. Then show me.
Well, you're the one making the argument. Why should I make your argument for you?
Yeah, but that's mine. Let's just say that's my foundational argument. Choices. I have an apple, I have a carrot, I have a banana, I want to choose the apple. An agent picking between options.
Based on what?
Their own preferential values.
Okay, how is that a choice then?
Because you could choose between your own preferential values, can you not?
He's stolen so much of your time, man.
No, wait, you can't choose between your own preferential values?
No.
Really?
This guy has a smile on his face as he says it.
For that?
You're not having a conversation.
Wait. What's the argument for why you can't choose between your own preferential values? Because you said you can't.
So if you like pizza, can you decide not to like pizza?
Yeah.
No, you can't.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Okay, man. You go live in La La Land, and I hope you become conscious one day, because right now you're just kind of like an LLM.
Thank you. I mean, Wolf, your patience is of a saint, but come on, dude.
No, that's not saintly patience.
You know what that
guy's
intention? That guy's intention was to waste people's time and just like be a microphone. Like, it's gross.
I don't care. Look, I mean, so long as they entertain me, I'll entertain them.
All right. Do you like arguing with people like I'm not judging.
It's a waste of time. You know, I am openly wasting my time. Like, I'm not here because I'm going to have like revelatory discussions with people, man. I mean, you would be surprised at how little of that kind of discussion actually ever happens, even with people who you can have like that kind of discourse with, because usually if they are into it as much as you are, they've already gone over pretty much everything just like you have. So all that there is to talk about is just like your differences, and you're not going to change, or your agreements, which changes nothing. Unless you're actively working something out, like.
No, I think you're right, but I think like the difference between you and I and like that person who was here previously is like the intention of like either trying to have like a good faith argument or having like you have to be receptive to the idea that you could be wrong about something, you know? And I mean, you could be right about a lot, but I mean, having that little bit of like an inquisitiveness rather than just like he was like full frontal attack like the whole time. He's like, you don't think this, you don't think that, isn't this, like putting like boxing in, and like I could just tell like his argumentation was just like it's not worth entertaining. But that was, sorry for popping off in the middle of that, but it was just I was getting.
Yeah, Travis, I'm gonna be real, bro. You're being like insufferable. I don't know, like I'm not trying to insult you. You might be a nice guy or whatever, but like the way you've been conducting yourself since I've been in the call has been like I want to punch you in the mouth. I really want to punch your teeth. Yeah,
okay.
I really do. Yeah, so
I appreciate the honesty.
Yeah, please just chill.
Antonio, you don't think there's any information out there regarding philosophy that would be important to you that exists?
Yes, but like don't misunderstand. Like, if usually the way I engage with those things, if I'm interested, I don't go on Discord or go to a university and look for people to talk to. There's literature, there are books, tons of books. You can already just catch up on much of everything on your own. Like I learn a lot more from books than from any other people. Other people help in that, like if we are like working through the same book, we can like discuss like the arguments and how we understand developments of arguments, and that will actually be revelatory in sometimes, because just like, you know, say with something like Kant, for example, there's like at least 3 major readings of Kant, which are coherent. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I'm out of here, but Tree Man, I'm sorry I perturbed you. Sorry about that, bud. You have a good one, all right?
Have a good night, Travis.
And for the record, Tree Man, you're not as bad as me.
Thank God that guy's gone. Holy shit. Anyway, easy. You're a vegan boy.
All right, give me a minute. I gotta take out some trash.
No, Travis already left. The trash took itself out. Anyway, easy. You're vegan, are you?
Yes.
Word. I've been on a vegan diet for like, I think like 9 years now. It's crazy if I can think. How long have you been?
2 years, 2.5 years. I'm pretty young, so you know that was I've been I was vegetarian for most of my teenage years, and then I've been a vegan in my early adulthood.
Gotcha. I went vegan when I was 16, I believe.
Mm.
Yeah, it was Vegan Gains, bro. I remember watching Vegan Gains.
Yeah.
The OG.
I vaguely remember that, but I never. Don't think I saw more than like maybe 2 minutes of full clips of him. Yeah,
Well,
I guess I just wasn't.
You've been in the server for a while. You know that like earlier this year or like last year, he gave like an AMA on the server, right?
Yeah, I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, dude, I fucking met him, bro. Like my teenage idol. I met it. It was like you ever seen Forrest Gump? You ever seen that movie?
No, but I'm familiar with the tropes and the.
Yeah, well, there's a scene where Forrest Gump goes to the White House and meets JFK. That's kind of what it felt like, dude. I felt like I was Forrest Gump meeting JFK.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fire.
It's cool.
Anyway. Yeah. So are you like a moral realist?
I don't even I'm not even entirely sure. I've been reading a lot of philosophy recently to the point that I'm sort of jostled off balance about what my primary beliefs are.
Yeah, that's the starting stage. That's good stuff.
But I still feel confident that I think that non-veganism, the carnism we have in our society, is incoherent with basically all, like any mainstream set of cultural values that we have. So I don't even think that I personally have to go at it from a very particular standpoint, though I'd have arguments appealing to different directions of that. But I don't know. I've been reading a lot of Greek classics right now and about eudaimonism, which seems very compelling. But I think of all the philosophies that I'm, curious about right now, I think all of them would naturally lead to the veganism that I practice.
Well, there's another guy in the Hegel server who comes on here sometimes, who was vegan for like 8 years and he stopped because of Hegel.
Yeah.
I suppose, like, obviously he has a whole metaphysical system behind like his normative claims and stuff like that, which I don't have a sufficient mastery over yet to like, fully appreciate. But I'm okay with like, even if like this other guy, his name is Rain. Rain's conclusion is that it's not an obligation to not eat animals, but like I'm okay with that. Like I'll still just do it, or rather refrain from doing it, because I like it. Like I like the aesthetic, if you will. Even if I can't prove philosophically that it's that it's some eternal moral truth that I ought obey. I hope that makes sense. And I also do it for like health reasons and also for environmental reasons and so on. Which I assume you do too.
And I think maybe there is more nuance once you get down into much like into hypotheticals that do not fit the overwhelming majority of livestock industry and animal consumption in our society and our world. I think there's probably maybe more of a argument in the normal realm of moral philosophies that we have in our society when it comes to things like, I don't know, maybe hunting.
Well, the thing about what I like the word that you replaced it with, that you say a normal moral philosophy. I mean, what that really is a dogmatic moral philosophy. Because like if you're gonna do like, normative ethics without a metaphysical system, it's just gonna be dogmatic. Like it's going to be dogmatic unavoidably, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with my veganism being like dogmatic, whatever. Like fuck it. That's the whole point of philosophy, is to comprehend, or that's one of the points of philosophy, is to comprehend what the good is. And anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's more nuance or arguments to be held at at maybe things like certain kinds of hunting, but I think when you look at where 99% of our consumption comes from, industrialized farming, I don't see any defense of it other than what will normally happen is people will start professing radical moral nihilism in an attempt to protect their current lifestyle, which seems
yeah. That's usually like
irrational.
a dialect. Yeah. That's usually like a dialectical blunder that people make when they're debating vegans, and it just makes them look like retarded. I agree with that, but like when you engage philosophical consciousness, you ultimately have to transcend all of that, like the optics of like, oh, this guy looks retarded because he's taking this position, and oh, he had to concede that he's this retarded moral nihilist, and all these things. Like, all those things are ultimately unimportant when you're after the truth. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not talking purely on the aesthetics. I just think I think that kind of more nihilism that they usually go into is completely incoherent. It also seems very silly, but that's an aside.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's dialectical suicide. Yeah. And I don't mean dialectic in the Hegelian sense. I made it in the normal sense, like two people are having a conversation or debate, and one of them has to resort to that. It kind of, it's like a bad look. And I agree that it is incoherent. Yeah.
And I think it's very clear that it is incoherent with any way that we would want to live. I don't think that there is. I have never heard, and I've heard quite a few people make arguments for it, and I've thought about it myself. I don't think there is any argument you can make to set moral standards that would justify the system of livestock that we have, and any system even tangential to it, not in a like a welfarist sort of, or not and welfare. What's the term? Not in a sense of the like quality of their position, but completely in general. I don't think there's any position you could take to justify and approve of that would not lead to other natural moral consequences that we would find repugnant. Right? It just is. I think it is only through a incoherency and inconsistency that you arrive at that position. So I feel comfortable in talking about these things from different angles, philosophical angles, without having a super strong, decided moral framework to try to set the ground with. I'm comfortable with asking them what they think and what their moral framework is, and talking about the consequences of that. Because I don't think it's necessary, in the same way that, I think like, okay, well, I'm not entirely certain what my moral framework is, what I'm interested in, what I'm reading about, but I don't need that to first argue that, we shouldn't be, doing all sorts of moral repugnant things, knowing that no path would lead us to there.
Yeah. So the first thing I would say, I agree that the positions that the opposition takes and the entailments of that are repugnant and would be repugnant to most people. But I would go even further and say that if most people were like actually aware of what what fucking industrial agriculture looks like, they would find it repugnant itself. And also,
Absolutely.
I'll add as another dialectical note that that's the kind of thing that people could just be dishonest about and like get away with it, because all they need to do is represent to you that they don't find something repugnant, and then the conversation is stalemated. So if you're going to talk about moral issues, in that register of you finding it repugnant, your opposition can just say, "Oh, well, I don't find it repugnant." I hope that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, but I mean that it would naturally connect itself to things that they could never approve of, which is often the tactic, right? I mean, that's the pretty standard thing. Well, you approve of eating meat, but you disapprove of this. How are those things different, right? That's the very standard argumentation.
It doesn't work on me.
What's the fundamental difference? And I think that's. I think it goes for 99% of people. That's enough to rationally reach those conclusions, unless they have some, unless they have some very, very unusual psychology and philosophy And at that point, it's not worth the time to try to convert their, to go that deep. You're never going to resolve that in a conversation like that.
Well, there is such a 1%er individual in the call with us. If you want to run that kind of vegan argumentation on IAW, I think that'd be an interesting comment.
I'm back. Yeah, let's go.
You want to talk about veganism, AW?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, what's your axiology?
Being. My ontology is my morality.
Okay, and what is your morality?
Ontology. So for anything that you're going to bring up, you have to give me we're going to have an ontological discussion about what it is, and then I'll tell you whether it's good or bad.
Okay. Why is it wrong to express sadism towards? Well, why would it be wrong to eat a person? Let's start there.
For one, we are human beings. We have a natural repulsion to that. Of course, that the natural argument there is not about the empirical naturality, because it's not about the naturality of the empirical. There are people obviously who are not disgusted by that. So
they're cultures.
Yeah,
who have done that.
Those people are, by my lights, defective. The human being is fundamentally and essentially a recognitive being. We seek recognition. That is our ultimate aim, because recognition is the instantiation of absolute freedom for us. And our aim as human beings is absolute freedom. It's not this or that freedom. It's freedom as such. Ultimately, we find that we don't get that satisfaction except by the recognition of another free being who freely, enjoins with us. This obviously requires not simply an agreement, so it's not simply a happenstance of consent or, we happen to like the same things. It ultimately has to be, the human being is also universal. We are a rational thinking being. We try to conceive the world as one whole. We try to have a systematic idea of the world. And ultimately, through that, we have to understand that we are entailed with all the other levels of ontology. Such that in all other things we recognize our own being, not as a human being, but as being simpliciter. That all being, in that it is true being, has some measure of freedom, has some measure of independence, objectivity, has some measure of subjectivity. It's independent activity, self-originating. And we have a peculiar aesthetic sensibility towards that, where it's not a conceptual recognition, though that's part of it at the highest level. It's also a sympathetic recognition of an intuition. We intuit. It's like a resonance, right? So we don't have to understand it, but we can resonate with it. So part of what I think the human being that's actualized ultimately does is they recognize freedom in everything, not that it empirically is, but everything that actually is, everything that can be understood as being properly a being. And we enjoy that. We just do. It's recognition is a pleasure in and of itself for us. That's why we get pleasure from just understanding things. No other purpose like that in itself. We get pleasure just hanging out with our friends and not doing anything for any particular purpose or grade or anything. Just being there, just vibing. So on an ontological level, what that looks like is a mutual relationship that maintains our difference, but in that difference constitutes a unity, and that would be what all moral activity, expresses in some way or another.
Okay, and what's the ultimate good of this? What does this all achieve?
Being.
So in a realm of forms way?
No, in the concrete way. I mean, being is what we have here and what we're experiencing now.
Right, but being a certain way.
Yes, including the ways in which we go wrong, right? So I have a peculiar theory of evil. It's not it's kind of related to the Christian idea. Evil is privation, but I think that one's flawed, because then they can't explain how evil is really present. My explanation is evil is a good that has gone out of place. Life is good, right? Your liver cells are good. But when your liver cells become cancerous, your liver, the cell type of the liver tries to take over the rest of the body. So now the liver is trying to take over the functions of the lungs, the heart, and that's what leads to the self-destruction of the liver itself, you know.
So this is Socrates' definition of just.
Yes, it's related. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's related.
Justice is something doing what it's supposed to do and not doing what it's not supposed to do.
Sure, but with the understanding that it has to do with the specific consequences of being. You know, for something that's truly evil, for example, it will destroy other things and it will destroy itself necessarily. Whereas with something good, it will maintain other things and it will maintain itself necessarily as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we live in a world in which clearly it's not nothing. And so whatever being ultimately is, it's not nothing. It's creating these portions in which coherent systems of differentiated unities are coming about. And if we look at about like a chain of being kind of view, we see that the higher chains make the lower chains coherent with themselves as well. So there's a dependence of each level upon all the other levels as well. So that, you know, in my position, like the cannibals thing, even if a person would agree to that, if you are an actualized human being, you will not do that out of the respect of their dignity as a human being, because a human being does not want to use anybody else as a mean, even if they want to be used as a mean. You know, you won't do that to them. You would just say there's something wrong with you. You know, you need to take some time to reflect upon yourself about, you know, why you want somebody to do this to you.
You said to use another person as a mean?
Yeah, and the same thing is about respect to oneself.
Respecting their... Okay. And you said this is... And the ultimate aim of this is happiness? You said that people like...
Freedom.
People... Okay, and why does it make someone more free to recognize the dignity of others?
Because if you didn't, then you couldn't recognize anybody. And recognition is between equals. You know, you don't recognize lower things. Things, they don't recognize you. What is there to recognize?
Okay. But you could recognize yourself still. Your own
actually, you
dignity
can't.
And freedom.
Not alone. No. Like for
why not?
Well, for all human beings, like we are social creatures. You cannot gain reason on your own. You cannot even gain a cognizance of who you really are on your own. You know, you don't find out who you really are until you're actually in situations, right? You know, you can believe whatever you want about who you are, but like when the rubber hits the road, that's a very different thing. You know, if I haven't been in a situation, I can't tell you what I really would do, right? You know, we all would want to say like, oh, I will be the brave person, or I will never do this thing, but it's a very different thing when you're put in a situation. So, you know, to know myself as a free being, I have to be actually given the conditions of actual freedom.
Okay, but why couldn't you cut that off? Why couldn't you cut that off arbitrarily? Why couldn't you say, well, people only become people when they turn 3 years old, and before that, they're not. They're objects.
Because we know that reason itself tells you that's not the case. That all things are becoming. They're not static. And so you need to take into account the becoming of things as part of what they are, because otherwise you are lying to yourself. And reason itself reveals that you're lying to yourself. And you're not being completely honest and sincere with your own reasoning capacity, which is the measure of what you are as a human.
So something must already be what it's going to become?
Yeah, otherwise how could it become? You know, like cats don't become dogs, you know, tomatoes don't become, you know, birds. Why? Because it's not already internal to their being to become that.
You think it's impossible? Through no science fiction that something could become something that it's not? A dog could become a bird, for example.
Could we eventually do things to like externally force things into a form that they originally are not? Yeah, sure.
Yes.
That's not an inherent thing to them, and it's a false thing too. So I mean, to me,
a false thing?
That it's not something that's truly independent, self-generative.
So it's only that way because of outside influences.
Yeah, if something is not in and of itself, then it's not even a thing, properly speaking. It's not an object.
What do you mean in and of itself?
That it's independent. You know, that it's by its own power.
As in, it could only be that way with outside influence.
Yeah.
Okay, well, could a baby not only become an adult through outside influence? They would need calories. They would need
no, it's
other
not that
matter
kind of
to come in, and
no, because the
Why is that not
outside
an outside
influence that
influence?
makes a baby as a human is internal to the essence of the human. The human is essentially a social being. Dogs don't teach human beings how to be human. Human beings teach human beings how to be human. And it is essential to us. We are indeed in our own natural purpose that way. And when you understand like what reasoning is, it totally makes sense why rational animals have to be social animals. You really can't be rational if you're asocial. That's completely contradictory to reason, because if you don't care about anybody else, then the whole process of discourse cannot happen. You know, you can't be a perfectly rational being making up your own systems of the world and not have any interest at all in actually having anybody push back against you and actually check this. And you cannot also be so conceited as to believe that you have total insight into the world from your own limited vantage point. And so you would have to be interested in what other people have to say to push back against you or to like test things that you yourself could not test out. So like rational beings have to be social. Like there's no way around it.
Okay. I don't understand what something has the potential to be is already innate to its value and how we have to treat it at that time.
Because if it wasn't, then how could you make it so, right? Now, like now what I'm saying about like the possibility of forcing things a certain way is still itself limited, right? For example, if it is not inherently potential to mechanical systems that they could ever be conscious, there's no way that you could ever kit bash consciousness into it. You can do all you want to make it appear consciousness. That's not the problem. You know, appearance is cheap. The actuality is not. You know, if a thing is just not capable, it's just not capable. You know, if matter cannot be compressed beyond a certain point, it cannot be compressed no matter how much you want to try. So unless a thing itself is receptive by its nature, you cannot do anything to it.
Right, but you admitted that we could transform something in a way that's not independent of it. You could make something that it's not. Something that it's not.
Sure, like it depends.
So something
to what
can
extent.
become something that it's not,
well,
but only
what
through
thing.
outside influence. And I don't understand why outside influence.
Wait, hold on. You're thinking too generally. Okay. It depends always on the specific thing. Can you make the human being not be the human being, for example? No, you cannot. Anything that you would do would surely degrade it. And in fact, if you try to externally do it, you know, you cannot force knowledge into somebody, even if you can pipe information. I mean, like, what is the internet, right? It's just a super highway of information. You can force it into people's screens. People will not engage with it if they don't want to. You can't do that. You can put a chip in people's brains, and you can make them like forcefully aware. It will not make them care. And at the point at which you can say that you have made them care, you have made them not human anymore. You've just made them robots.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can make humans no longer human.
Yeah, but destruction is easy. That's cheap. Like, you know, making a functional thing of a different kind that's a genuinely, you know, equal or greater, then it's not possible. I mean, you don't need advanced technology to make a human subhuman, for example. All you need to do is fucking, hack a piece of their brain off, you know, give them a concussion, you know,
or prove
shock, give them shock therapy to erase their memories. You can do that very easily. It's not hard. You can
prove that eugenics is true.
I mean, sure, yeah. I think eventually humanity has to engage eugenics. Like, it's just going to be it's not even like a no-brainer. It's going to just happen by necessity.
You can't tell me that when people spend 3,000 years evolving in a completely separate region, and they're going to be the same exact species as me. I don't care if we have similar DNA. I have similar DNA to a chimpanzee, but I don't call them a human.
Oh, well, we're not talking about that.
Person should
not. Yeah, we're not talking about that, man.
Well, can I just check in on you, Easy here? Do you understand? Like, are you drawing the connection to the relevance for the veganism question here, in like what's being discussed?
Yes, I think so, but I don't understand. I still don't understand the basic reasoning. I don't understand the
world is
significance of the distinctions that he's drawing.
Well, the significance is that the world is one becoming. That's a fact. You can pretend by words that it's not. You can say, actually, I don't believe in becoming. There's only being. You can say that. You can't actually experience that. You can't actually do that. And, I mean, that's just a waste of time. It's just pretending. The second is, so the world is becoming. And not only is it becoming, it's not becoming, like a structureless soup. It's a very structured becoming. Dogs become dogs. Cats become cats. Tomatoes become tomatoes. They don't suddenly jump. And yes, even if you hold to evolution, which, I'm iffy on, at least natural evolution. I don't think that's a theory at all, frankly. But even if you hold to that, so you have species transform, it's still something we can say, given the quality of not human life, all animal life, or all life really, in being natural systems, which are open to external influences, and that life itself is receptive and actively receptive, specifically, to becoming, determined in accord with its environment, then yeah, we can say, a T-Rex down the line became a chicken. But it's internal to the T-Rex that it became a chicken. It wasn't forced upon it from outside, It was just the outside that gave it the condition.
I don't see the significance of that difference. What is the value of what something is already becoming versus what it can be forced to be?
The value for you, nothing. It doesn't matter what you value. So, I mean, like, when we talk about, value as such, right, like, people don't even know what the hell this means. To me, what that means is that
I think I do know what value means.
Oh.
I'm talking about axiology. I'm talking about the good, the ultimate aim.
Yeah, but, like, you can say that, but, like, what does that mean on an actual practical reality? What does it mean that, say, atoms are valuable as such? Like, what the hell does that mean to you?
It's not a physical reality.
Right, so then why does it matter? If it's not a practical reality, why does it matter?
Well, I don't think practical and physical are interchangeable, but I'm trying to ask you about your
I'm telling you. So, like, in my view, like, if you don't have any practicality to your structural, like, ontology and your axiology, then you're just talking gobbledygook. You're talking about nothing.
Practicality can't exist without an axiology.
Absolutely, it does. The atom doesn't have to. The atoms have no consciousness, for example. But atoms are valuable in themselves, and they don't have to be valuable to me. Well, the reason why is because they are. They are an actual objective being. Atoms are constituted as atoms by whatever it is that is internal to the forces of matter that constitutes itself into atoms. They don't need your desire. They don't need your recognition, and they don't need even their own. Nature itself clearly engages this process. I mean, what is valuation other than the purposeful seeking of the unification of purpose with its end? Nothing.
It sounds like you're just trying to conflate descriptive and prescriptive statements. I'm not saying you can't make an argument for that, but I don't know what the argument is.
I've already told you. My argument is ontology. Morality is ontology. So I make no distinctions between prescriptive and descriptive. The prescriptive is only prescriptive because it is descriptive already about what you actually are and about what things actually are. Atoms don't need you to tell them what is a good atom or a bad atom. Nature already creates things. When an atom is bad, what is it? It radiates away until it's stable. When an atom is good, it's stable. It's that easy. When a cat is a cat, nature functions perfectly to engage all of its process to keep it as a cat. And when the cat is not a good cat, it ends up, dying out.
But earlier you said that it is a bad liver that, like, destroys itself and the rest of the body.
Right, because the liver is not independent.
That is you adding a value that does not exist inherently. The liver is doing exactly what it's doing.
No, it isn't.
It's a perfect example of itself, which is what we would call a defective liver.
No, it isn't.
Why? Because that's what's happening.
Are there any independent livers out in nature?
What do you mean by independent? Is it not inside a body?
Are there any independent livers out in nature? So in order for something, remember what I said, in order for something to be a thing, it has to be independent. That's like the measure of objectivity. So are there independent livers? So then livers cannot be considered things in themselves that would have value in themselves. Livers have values because they function for a body. That's their entire value. They're mediators. They're not ends in themselves.
I understand. So then when the body destroys itself because of disease, that's what the body's doing. That's the descriptive reality. It's a body that destroys itself. It's a perfect idealized version of a body that destroys itself.
No, it isn't. Destruction is not an idealization of anything. Like destruction is a failure. No, it isn't. Destruction is not a form.
Projection, because that's
no, it isn't.
Destruction exists in the
bro. I said this already. Like I said this at the beginning. Do we or do we not live in a world of beings? No. Do we live in a world of nothing? No.
Yeah,
so does it make sense to you to say that then somehow anything could have the purpose of not being, given that they are beings? That makes no sense. It's completely unintelligible. Literally, all things in experience.
It's not being to do something that you don't think it should do. It's becoming a dead body.
Is the liver going to die? Do you think the purpose of the liver is to die? If that was the purpose, would it not just have destroyed itself immediately?
Well, you're projecting categories on it.
I'm not projecting it. I'm making it. Well, hold on. No. I didn't say it needs to be. I'm talking about ontology. Is it or is it not?
Yeah.
We live in a world of beings. Everything seems to be striving for the completion of its own being, the maintenance of its being. If it wasn't, they just wouldn't be, now would they? If the world itself was purposefully not, that was its actual essential end, it just wouldn't be, now would it? But it's not. We're here in a world of beings. You cannot tell me that it makes sense to you then to say, well, the purpose of the liver was to like destroy itself. No, that's not the purpose of the liver. That's just a defective liver.
Okay, well then, we're saying destroy itself. That's our projection. Let's remove that word.
We're not saying destroy itself. Is there a liver at the end? And is that non-being or is that being?
Why is it not being? It's continuing to develop.
No, it isn't.
Those atoms still exist in the same way they did.
Wait. Is the liver identical to the atoms?
No.
No. So then it's non-being. So again, how can non-being be the purpose of anything that is? I mean, I'm again.
I would say that it's a form of change. I don't think it's a form of non-being.
Okay. It is a form of non-being. Change is a non-being. Now you're projecting. If you change from one state to another, you are not the first state. It is a form of non-being. If you change from a liver to dust, you are not a liver. Now the liver clearly, given all of experience, given what livers do in the body, is not there to not be. If it was purposely not to be, it wouldn't be.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's trying to do that.
It's not trying to do it. You don't need to try to not be, bro. It's easy. It's the easiest thing in the world to not be.
Okay. It seems like you're creating these categories.
I'm not creating. I'm literally reporting to you the reality.
Everything that exists within it into the center. And to say this liver is not acting
I'm not.
These other livers.
Why do you keep projecting this? I'm giving you an ontological account. Unless you have a counter-ontological account, or you can show a problem in my account, which you haven't. You're saying that I'm projecting, but you're not showing how. In order for you to say I'm projecting, you need to make an ontological distinction between the reality.
You're projecting. Mm-hmm.
The reality and what I'm saying.
You're projecting. What I mean is, I don't think you've made the argument to connect these two pieces.
Do livers exist independently out there in the world?
No.
Okay, like do babies die? Are babies born to die? Does life generally just go off and die, just commit suicide?
Life ends. Often.
No, I'm not asking if it ends. I'm asking, is the purpose, like, does life come about to end? Do you see it ending? Like generally, categorically?
I don't think life necessarily comes about for any purpose.
Yeah, that's just a problem of your own ignorance. Obviously, your parents fucked. I don't know if you're gonna fuck one day and have kids, but if you do, it's not gonna matter whether you do or do not. You know, for all other animals, they fuck, they have children, the species goes on. They don't have to have any conscious purpose. So I'm not talking about a conscious purpose that anything's like projecting a purpose that needs to get done. Things clearly have a purpose. A purpose is just a state of being which is endemic to a thing, which is guiding that thing. Forces can be purposeful. Blind gravity. Is gravity purposeful? Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the purpose of matter. It's the attraction of matter. Matter attracts and repels at the same time in different ways. Matter resists itself. Is that the purpose of matter? Absolutely.
Hey, what's up, Antonio Wolf?
Hey, what's up, man? So, I mean, I'm gonna admit to you, like, I know that my ontology and the way that I'm talking about this is completely unorthodox. This is not something you encounter very much, if at all.
No, it's similar to Nietzsche's will to life and this form of something that is life affirming. It's not. I think it's framed oddly, but it's not completely novel.
Well, it's not just the will to life. I mean, like, I'm not saying that about the universal thing. It's not a will. Being is that which obviously differentiates itself and unifies itself, and we can see that. Mm-hmm. We can see that from the lowest order to the highest order. So not only does it temporally do that, it also structurally does that on the ontological level. Higher forms of being come about from lower forms of being. Consciousness overtakes biology. Biology overtakes chemistry. Chemistry overtakes, basic material physics. And material physics, is an expression of a purely metaphysical structures, which are manifest in it.
Antonio Wolf, are you a theist or an atheist?
I'm in the middle of a conversation, man. Like, have some conversational ethics, please.
Sorry.
So, I mean, I don't know how you can deny any of this. To say that, like, I'm not giving, like, at least a coherent, a structural account. I know it's bare bones, but what do you expect?
Do things not all die?
All that is finite perishes, yes.
Okay. So why is it not their purpose to perish?
As finite, that is indeed their purpose, but it is not their ultimate purpose. So the seed dies. So the seed dies, literally, it rots away as a seed in order for the thing to sprout. The tomato dies in order for the seeds to come about and be fertilized. So within the universal structure of the unity of being, the becoming part is there for all the finite things, but the totality of it does not. Every single individual dog dies, but has the species of the dog died in all the time that it's been around? Not yet. Will it die at some point?
Well, most species have died.
Yeah. Will the species die at some point? Yes. But like, for example, does the species of reason ever die? No. It's not bound to time. It's not bound to space. Any rational being can have my thoughts, insofar as they're rational. And they don't need to read me. They can have them independently because, reason itself is purely independent. So, I mean, that, and the structures of becoming itself don't die. Becoming does not stop becoming. Where is the problem?
Is it possible for there to be a universe where not becoming would be the purpose?
No.
Okay, it's logically impossible.
Yeah, logically, metaphysically impossible. Because if there was nothing, it would contradict, so it would be and not be, which is becoming.
Okay. So when certain species of animals commit infanticide and consume their own children, is that bad?
For animals, no. I mean, like, animals are brutal, man. Animals don't have the ethical standards of human beings. They don't have morality.
But is that interrupting their becoming? Is that
no.
Bad?
I mean, like for example, I know rats do that, and we actually have a rational count as to why they do that. Rats eat like their comrades right immediately after they die, like, to simply like keep predators away. You don't want the stench of death in your fucking burrow drawing in predators already. So, they take care of it, and they are designed in such a way that it will not harm them. Whereas as a human being, we are in such a way that, if we eat human flesh, that literally makes us sick. You eat too much of it, you'll start going crazy.
So it's not. There's nothing bad or against the ultimate aim for animals to eat their children.
No, not as animals. I mean, animals, they are exactly as they are. Nature is behind that. You could call it God, whatever. And nature is clearly wiser than nature is clearly wiser than we are in that. Well, I never had an argument against that. We're talking about humans.
Well, you said
humans are moral.
Said the diseases in these animals shouldn't exist. The
well,
genetic diseases in
the
these animals
animals
shouldn't exist.
don't. Yeah, the animals are not alive to die that way. There's a big difference between committing infanticide, which is something about a species survival tactic. Like what is it? There's that the shoebill stork or shoe. I don't know if it's a stork. You know what I'm talking about? Like the big bird, like it's got a massive face from Africa. They will have like like batches of like 2, 3 fledglings. They will
I understand.
start.
We don't need
they'll only feed one, and eventually they'll if the other ones haven't died by a certain point, they'll actively kill them, and they'll just keep one alive. So that's infanticide, but like that's just nature. They're not doing a moral calculus or anything. Like they're not even thinking about it. They're just going by their instincts, and it works.
You said earlier that our moral beliefs have no bearing. It's only what exists inherently.
Yeah. So disease is going to be
disease.
Wait, hold on.
So you said,
disease,
well, they don't have our moral calculation. Well, it'd make no difference if they did, right?
Well, exactly. Like moral ontology here. Like for one, the moral question only belongs to us. It doesn't belong to animals. But as far as what is good and bad, that belongs to the ontology of the thing. If the individuals in the species thrive in a certain way, that is their good. And now there are species which are in themselves bad, like virus, like certain bacteria. Like they're completely parasitic. Their good is good for no one. And if they even succeeded at what they were good at, they would just kill everything, and they would kill themselves too. Those things are inherently bad. That's not a judgment about my personal good or anything. Those things lead to the cessation of being in general of their own kind, as well as other kinds. So they are ironically contradictory, and that's exactly why they're bad. They contradict their own purpose.
Okay.
They want to live, but what they're doing is going to literally destroy them.
Well, they don't want anything.
Well, no, they're living things.
Yeah,
bacteria.
We're for anthropomorphizing them.
They probably have some sense of feeling.
I don't know why you would think that.
Well, because they act and respond in a certain way, and we assume that you need brains for certain things. The whole account, it's just kind of mechanical responses. That doesn't seem like very mechanical stuff. I'm not saying they have advanced feelings or anything. I mean, who knows what simple feelings they have? But they must feel something.
Well explained by basic chemistry. I don't think there's any.
No, it isn't. Nobody knows.
It's not responding. There's no processing system. Well, yeah, I guess you can appeal to our ignorance.
Nobody actually knows
no reason to believe
how. Well, yeah, you have no reason not to believe it either. We know for a fact, we don't.
Come on.
Well, no, we do have evidence for why otherwise. If you don't know what parapsychology is, you should look into parapsychology, and don't start with what other people do. Don't do the stupid shit where you're going to be insincere. Look at what the people who actually do parapsychology report, not the people who are talking about parapsychology outside of it. It's easy and cheap to judge people from the outside when you haven't actually bothered to look at what they're actually doing, and you just, judge from your own standpoint, despite the fact that they're not doing things that you normally do from your own standpoint. So that's going to be no good. So if you're in doubt about that, look into that. No, it's not settled that you need brains to have consciousness or feeling or anything like that.
Well, we have no reason to believe.
We do have
that
reasons.
Is the case, and therefore,
I'm telling you, you've never looked into this, so you should look
the
into
scope
it.
Of this conversation, so we should find a way to get it.
Oh, right. So to be fair, then you cannot discount it, and I will not push it as you need to believe this, but you cannot categorically discount that's just not possible. You're not actually cognizant about everything that's going on there.
Yeah, I've never done any research into the all those specifics and how they apply to germs. So no, but it's beyond the scope. So we should use a different example so we don't have to run into that. I mean, I think I feel like this might just be the stumbling block that ends the conversation, but I also think that anything else would just be dancing around it and wasting more time.
Well, I can give you.
I think that the crux of our disagreement is in category, that you are assigning. That I believe that you are assigning an average to things in a group that has been formed. and saying that they all must be, not in an ontological way, they all must be like the average. And if they are not like the average, that is
nobody
bad.
says that. Nobody says they must be like the average. So you're making a value judgment here. Wait, hold on. Hold on. Remember, my position is moral ontology. It's not about however you perceive it. I don't care how you perceive it. It doesn't matter how we perceive it. There is a fact of the matter, for example, like engines. If you have a gas car, there is a fact of the matter about the construction of that engine itself, which will not allow you to use any other fuel. If you try to use diesel in a gas car, it's not gonna work. If you try to use water, it's not gonna work. If you try to use gas in a diesel engine, it's not going to work. That's just a matter of the structure. You want to ruin your engine? Go ahead. Now, the fact that the engine is gonna work or not work, given what you put in, it's just a fact of the engine. It doesn't matter what you think.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we have engines
Right.
to do things. If you want to brick your engine, that's just you wasting your money and being stupid. Go ahead. But that's just a bad engine, right? If your engine doesn't turn on when you put gas into a gas engine, it's a bad engine. That's
Right.
not me saying.
So we
it.
agree that there are two different states that these things can be separated into. And you are saying that one of these states is inherently bad from moral ontology.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because it does not conform to the average force, or
No.
forces that you think
No.
exist via reason.
No, it's not average. Look.
Well, I removed the word average.
Well, it's just a structure. Okay. So it's just a structure of being. It's universal. It's not average. It's if you have a gas engine, it has to be structured a certain way. Like no if and or buts about it.
Yes. Well, it has to be to fit the criteria.
Well, it has to be if it is what it is. No, not our definition.
Taxonomy.
No, it's not our definition.
Well,
there is a fact to how gas combustion engines work. No if and or buts. You can call them whatever you want. You can categorize them however you want. The gas engine ontologically is only within a certain range of design.
Yes, but what you are essentializing as the character, the defining word, gas engine. This is a.
I'm not defining the word. I don't care about words. Treeman's heard me give the spiel probably too many times. I hate the confusion of words, so I'm talking about structure. So when I talk about structure, I'm talking about structure. Forget the words. Visualize the structure in your brain, your images, or whatever you want to give it, so that you don't confuse that we're talking about words, because I'm not.
Okay. Well, why are what are the barriers of these structures? Is a black person and a white person in a different structure?
Ontologically, as far as human being goes, no.
Okay. Are coyotes and wolves in a different structure?
To a certain extent, although they can actually interbreed. I did not know that, but they can. So apparently, by the actual standard of their own being, no, they're not really in a different structure.
Whose standard? What do you mean by the actual standard?
The actual standard of their being. So the standard of the coyote and the wolf apparently makes no relevant distinction between the wolf and the coyote, because they can produce offspring, and the offspring is actually viable.
Wait, why is producing a viable offspring the standard?
You just came in. We're not talking about that, so please just stay on the side until you find out what we're talking about.
I would assume your answer to that question would be because that is how they are inherently capable of becoming, of perpetuating becoming.
Yeah, it's inherent to their being.
Okay, so they're separated by their ability to further becoming together. But
that
only
see how
exists on a biological.
Well,
if one member of the species is infertile, and they are no longer capable of perpetuating becoming with the others, are they a different structure?
No, they're a lesser structure. So, for example, suppose that you have a wolf that just congenitally is infertile. They're not old or anything. They can't produce viable sperm, or they don't have viable eggs. Is that a bad wolf as far as the reproduction of the species? Yeah, it's a failure. What are you gonna do about it?
Right. When you gave it a qualifier to the reproduction of the species.
No. I don't think that.
Achieve that.
Okay. All right. But that qualifier is not something that I am putting in. The wolf being a wolf. No, it's not. I think. Look, wolves want to fuck.
Dude, you know what I mean when I say you think. We're having a conversation. You think means this is what you are telling me.
Okay, well, like, I mean, it's ambiguous, like, in the way that you're saying it. So, like, I just want to make clear.
Okay,
I'm not making a claim.
Well, that is what I mean.
All right. Well, again, and I think you're wrong in that, because I'm not saying it. Look, wolves want to fuck. That's just a fact. They're born to fuck. They're born to have.
Not all
pups.
wolves want to fuck.
So you have to abuse an animal pretty badly to get it not to want to fuck.
No, they could have a genetic condition.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're appealing to exceptions of exactly the failures that we're already like acknowledging, the average wolf, given the kind of thing that it is as the ontological thing, is
so you are appealing to the
inherent.
Average. You disagreed with that earlier.
I'm not appealing to the average, because my basis is the universal kind. It's not about the average of the kind.
Okay.
Right now, for example, like I told somebody earlier, I don't know if you were here or listening. Somebody said about like what is it? Consent. The average human cannot consent.
Yeah, I heard.
That's bad. That means that most humans are kind of failing at being human. That does not then be so. It does not become suddenly good that because the average human cannot consent, therefore, it's good that you can't consent because that's just the average human and it's functional enough. No, that's not good. That's failing to be the kind.
Okay. So, do you think that this moral ontology of that all things are becoming is comparable to any other law in the universe?
It's the same structure of all laws. Yep, it's the same for all laws.
Okay, so it is equivalent in this. It's in the same grouping as that the law of gravity is to the law of motion. Those three are all equidistant from each other.
No, I would say they're analogical. So I mean, like morality is analogical to the laws of gravity. Just like you don't need to understand gravity for gravity to affect you and do its deal on you. You don't need to understand morality for morality to affect you with its consequences.
Okay, I don't understand how that answers my question. Are they all equidistant from each other? Are they all equally related to each other? Motion.
I don't know what that means.
Okay. So if I would say motion and gravity are universal laws. I'm giving them the same level of authority and role. And I guess I wouldn't apply a moral conduct to them, so it's hard to say that. But
I don't either. When I talk about moral ontology,
okay, so why don't you apply morals to gravity, but you do to becoming?
Okay, I thought I mentioned this earlier. The moral domain belongs to the reflective, conscious human domain. We become conscious of ontology. The ontology is the measure of what we ought to do, because we are conscious that we also are invested in ontology. We are beings. So we very much want to be right on the money about what we are and what we should do, because it's from what we are that we get what we should do. Obviously, the atoms don't need moral rules. The animals don't need moral rules.
Do all of those descriptions not also apply to gravity? We become aware of gravity?
Matter doesn't need moral rules. So what's the problem?
Well, I'm not talking about the matter. I'm talking about the mind.
Well, what about the mind? What's the connection there?
Why is the mind's relationship to gravity not the same as its relationship to becoming? Why is gravity not a moral matter?
Gravity can be a moral matter. So if you're a kook who's telling people that you can get them to fly, say like
that's not what I mean.
Wait, no. I'm going to give you an example because it might not be what you mean, but here's what I mean. So I think there's a guy from the 60s named it is relevant. There's a guy named Maharishi Mahesh Yogi who claimed that he could teach people yogic flying. Suppose that this guy had convinced people that he could actually get them to fly, and he had taken them to the top of the Empire State Building in the United States and convinced them that they should just jump off and they'll fly.
Dude, this is not relevant.
No. So it is relevant. This is what I mean. So I don't know what you meant, but this is what I mean regarding what you said. So what I want to respond, this is what I would respond anyways.
I know what
regardless
you mean
of what
already.
You say. Okay, so you get where I'm going? That like in that regard, that person would be
that this person
immoral.
could use the and manipulate the truth that exists to do things that are immoral.
No. That's so you don't know where I'm going.
That if he told them they could fly and they jumped off the roof and they can't fly because of gravity, that would be wrong.
Why?
I don't agree with you. So
so you don't know where I'm going. So you don't actually know where I'm going.
Because it's against. Okay, fine. Go on.
Okay, so you ask, like, why is gravity not a moral concern? And I'm telling you, it can be. So I'm giving you an example where gravity would be a moral concern. The concern is not that he lied. Maybe he's delusional. Maybe they're all delusional. Maybe they really believe it.
Right,
so
it goes against becoming. But it's not gravity for gravity's sake. It's gravity in relation to something else. I'm asking gravity for gravity's sake and in the same way as
there is no gravity for gravity's sake, and there is no becoming for becoming's sake. All things that are moral are for the sake of freedom. They're not for their own sake. The only thing that's for its own sake is freedom.
I think you know what I mean by that.
No, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what your point of view is. I know what my point of view is, which I'm explaining.
I mean that is the axiom.
I don't work with axioms.
It should be becoming, so it can be becoming.
I don't work with axioms.
As in the form of speech. I mean, as in the ultimate aim, as in the first rule.
But becoming is not an ultimate aim or a first rule, nor is gravity.
Okay, so then what's the ultimate aim behind becoming?
Freedom.
Okay, so going against becoming impedes freedom.
Sometimes certain becomings are against freedom. If somebody tries to dehumanize you, that's against freedom.
Okay, so those would be bad too.
Right. So becoming for becoming's sake is clearly not good. Change for change's sake is not good.
Okay. But all forms of unbecoming are bad?
No. If you unbecome from, a bad state, that's good.
But you wouldn't call that unbecoming because you would say the kind has not changed.
No, I would.
What's the bad state?
So suppose that you were ignorant and, willfully ignorant, or rather like unwillfully ignorant, or people made you ignorant. And, eventually you find out, say you were born and raised in a cult, right? Eventually, through no effort of your own, you weren't even seeking to get out. It's just, things happen in your life and your reasoning kicks in, whether you want it to or not. And you start noticing things. And then even though you were in a state of ignorance and, blissful ignorance, let's say, you come out of that and maybe you're miserable. You realize, oh man, I'm in a cult and, my life has been stolen. My first 20 years are gone. Nonetheless, now you're in a better state. Now, obviously that state, being that you're a human being, hopefully, unless they literally made you congenitally retarded or something, chopped your brain or something, put a brain chip in you to make you incapable to develop, your neurons. Things may from the outside impinge upon you and cause you to change, or maybe even you just are a naturally curious person and you might change. So you go from a bad state to a better state. So that's an unbecoming of, of something bad going to good.
Okay, and you would call that a kind of, so every characteristic is a kind of becoming.
Yeah, and it's both a coming to be and a ceasing to be. And you can focus, it can be focused on either one of those, but there's always both of those in one way.
Okay, but how is something defined as becoming or unbecoming? What is the difference? Because as you said, something is always becoming and unbecoming. Or didn't you say something is always becoming and unbecoming at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay, so then wouldn't everything be equal by that measure? Every action is equally becoming and unbecoming, and this is not a metric?
Yeah, and I never said that it is. You said that. I never said that. I never said that becoming is the ultimate end-all, be-all. I said, we live in a world of becoming.
You said that things should be becoming.
No. I said we live in a world of becoming, and so we need to account in our ontology that becoming.
But you said it's when things can be described as unbecoming, those things are therefore bad,
I never said that.
Like polio.
I never
said that. You didn't say that polio was bad because it destroys itself?
Yeah, that's not because of its unbecoming. That's because it's destroying the being as a being. The baby unbecomes as a baby and becomes an adult. That's good.
Okay, right. So this is this is the distinction I was trying to draw. They are changing kind, right? That is bad. It is bad to change kind.
Yeah. It's not even just change kind. It's just a destruction of kind. You know, if you kill the living body,
well, it does become something else.
Well, yeah, but it's not really in kind. Like if you kill the living body, the body itself didn't become a different kind. It's just no longer properly a body, period. Like that level of ontology has been crushed down into lower structures. It didn't become that.
Well,
it didn't go from one to the other.
It does become no longer a body, right? At one time, it becomes something completely different.
Well, no. The body just stops being a body. There just is no body. What's left is just the matter.
And and it becomes different, something else.
Yeah, well, the matter remains matter.
Unless it's nothing, and nothing can be nothing, right? So
yeah,
it is
the matter remains matter. The body as body is gone. There just is no body. The body didn't become something else. It just stopped being.
What's the difference between that and, using sci-fi technology to turn a dog into a cat?
Well, I mean, like I said, like if you externally do that, did you make a dog into a cat, or did you destroy a dog and just bring about a cat?
That's what I'm asking.
I mean, like, you're giving the sci-fi example? Like, what is it you're positing?
The example is you go into its genes and you transform it to be a dog through the most elegant method. Exact same matter, all the atoms turn into dog atoms. Or not atoms, that's not how it works. All the cells turn into dog cells.
Does it still have its dog memories and like dog desires, or what?
So the consciousness is the defining factor.
Well, no, I'm asking you. Like, you're giving the example.
Okay, well, yes or no. In those, if those are two divergent paths, then that is the defining answer to my question.
Well, I mean, as far as
if it has its memories, it is still the same being. If it does not, then it's not.
No, it's mine. Not really. I mean, I don't think animals even have memories, quite frankly.
I don't. Then how do they exist? How do they express memory in experiments?
Well, they vibe.
They vibe. How do they vibe to know?
Just the same way you vibe when you drive. I'm not fucking conscious like the vast majority of the time that I drive, and yet somehow just by feeling I drive perfectly fine, and I know where
I think that's subconscious memory. There's multiple. The mind can be divided into multiple parts.
You can play around with the word memory. Yeah, you can. You don't have a very determinate view of memory then, because by memory, what we used to mean had nothing to do with unconscious neurons and mechanical systems, but by memory, what we used to be meant about 100 years ago and before.
I don't mean unconscious neurons. I don't mean unconscious. I mean, I'm not convinced it's unconscious, but it's not my conscious. Something else is handling it.
That's not memory then. By memory, people usually meant that you're consciously recollecting an image or some kind of representation. That's what memory is. If you don't have that, you're not really dealing with memory. I don't think animals are really dealing with memory.
Well, in the example of doing something and not thinking about it, I don't think we know that there's not some part of we know that that we don't remember experiencing that, but we also don't remember experiencing dreams, and we also know that there are different sections of our mind because they can be against each other. Right? We know the mind is more than one thing, or else it would not be able to be contested.
Well, those are different things. I mean, like I said, like it depends on like you have a very broad view of memory. I have a far more limited view. Like what I said, memory recall is like conscious recall representations. If that's not what you mean, then like we're not even talking about the same thing.
Okay, so then why did you ask if the dog keeps its memories? What is the defining factor? What makes it either?
Well, I was asking you. Yeah. So if you would say, let me clarify. So if you say, well, it keeps its memories, whatever that means to you. Then obviously you are positing that some kind of identity does remain, and so even though the vast majority of the organism has been radically altered, something about it actually remains consistent. But if you tell me, well, we just like taken the matter and just like reordered it completely, it's just we basically recycled the dog. Well, then there you go. Like, have you really changed the dog, or like have you just not just destroyed the dog and reconstituted it?
Okay, so it's defined on the consciousness. The consciousness is the defining factor.
No.
But you just said it. You just said it is.
Well, no, I said that in your example. If you told me that it does.
In that circumstance, if it keeps the same consciousness, it is the same kind. If it loses its consciousness,
I didn't say it was the same kind. You're hearing things. I never said it was the same kind.
Well, then what is it? Then what is it if it keeps its consciousness?
So you asked. Okay, let me try to remember the question right. So the original question was: you get a dog through scientific techno magic, you transform the dog completely biologically into a cat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and my question was then: okay, does it keep its memories? Does it still have like the dog mind or whatever? And the reason I asked that was just to see if you would say anything remains the same about the form of the dog in any way, being a dog, or if what you mean by transformation here is just simply the complete physical destruction and restructuring, in which the only thing that really remains the same is, well, you used matter, but all you really did is just destroyed a dog and you made a cat. You didn't change a dog into a cat. You just destroyed a dog and you recycled it into a cat.
Okay, but if it kept its mind, it would not be that.
Well, if you said they kept anything that was as a kind, belonged to the kind of dog, then something of the kind of dog would remain that cat body, and there'd probably be a problem.
Do you believe in souls, or do you believe that consciousness is purely an emergent property of matter?
I don't see how that's relevant to this. What's relevant to this is identity.
Because that would be a non-material maintenance. Because you're asking, does it keep the consciousness? Well,
no, I didn't ask, does it keep the consciousness?
Is non-material,
wait, hold on. Why do you keep repeating this? I didn't say that. My measure is of identity.
That is one of the words you used.
Well, my measure of identity is not consciousness. I said the reason I mentioned the memory thing is just to see if you hold any idea about whether there's an identity that is maintained or not. It could be memory or anything. That's why I made the example.
And is identity purely physical?
Regarding the physicality of animals, sure. I mean, unless you believe in souls, in which then you could say, even then.
Do you?
Yeah, when you believe in souls, it can be not only physical, but.
Well,
Sorry,
I think
I couldn't hear you.
I think only over our words and over our tides and things that we do to other people, we are a little bit more than physical, but eventually not very much.
I was asking for.
Anyways, no, I hold an Aristotelian view of hylomorphic about the souls. The soul is just the form of the body.
Okay, so do you believe in the world of forms? Or
No.
the realm of forms, I think is the proper term for it? No. Okay.
I would say Plato didn't either.
Yeah. I don't know. His writings on that are not super specific. They are kind of vague, up to interpretation. So, for our purposes, you believe that identity is purely based on the material. You could not change every aspect of the material and still maintain any part of the identity. In that full transformation sense.
Well, as far as that, the dog example, the animal example, sure. If we're just going to stay to the usual understanding of biology, yeah. Okay. I would not say then that you changed the kind of the dog because all you did was destroy a dog and use that matter to reconstitute it as a cat. You didn't change the kind. You destroyed one kind and replaced it with another.
Okay.
Yeah,
and the defining character of a kind is what can, in coordination, perpetuate becoming?
Perpetuate being.
Inherently.
Which involves becoming.
Right, so it's things that can merge in that, in some way, biologically, however you describe reproduction. That ability to perpetuate becoming in that fundamental way.
No, it's not perpetuating becoming, it's being. Being is the goal. The goal isn't to become, the goal is to be. And if you can be while becoming, which is what everything is, great. But the goal is not to change, it's not to become, it's to be.
Okay. So you said that we are in a world of becoming.
Yeah.
Is destruction becoming?
Yes.
Okay. So.
But again, like
so
I think you equivocate here, because.
Okay. So then, but is it a lesser form of becoming? Is that what you think?
Yeah, there are different degrees of becoming. Like, and it depends on the kind, right? Now, there's a general becoming between
so for
being.
something to become.
Wait, hold on. So there's the general metaphysical, like top level becoming, which is just the sheer becoming of being and nothing. And then there's like lower levels of that. Well, they're not really lower. They're more concrete. They're actually higher. Something like an animal, right? The animal becomes within its own nature. It doesn't become via another nature. It doesn't become from being to non-being categorically. It becomes internally to itself. As a matter of fact, the very structure of its own being is already becoming. The fact that you have differentiated organs, those are becomings within the animal already. So the animal doesn't need to go from total being to total nothing. That's not the becoming it engages in.
Okay, but not all.
So if there were no humans, if there was no sentient beings, no rational beings, would all of this not matter in the same way? It still exists, but would it not have value, or whatever? I think
all what humans build has no value.
I know you said things have an inherent value that doesn't depend on humans, but I think that's a misuse of the word value, because value means something that directs behavior. It is something that would compel behavior.
And you don't think that atoms.
Grand sense.
You don't think that an atom having the enclosure of its energy within itself is not a compelling of its own nature to keep itself being?
No, I think value has to be related to a choice, and it has no choice.
Why? Animals have no choices. That has nothing to do with value. Animals clearly value things.
I don't agree with that, but it doesn't matter here or there.
No, like how could animals? Wait. This brings the whole metaphysics of choice here. Like, how can animals have choices? Choice requires an actual free, independent, above the causal chain standpoint. Animals don't have that.
I don't. I think animals display an ability for reason at some level, and I think it's unclear how great that ability for reason is.
It's pretty clear. Very clear.
Well, surely there are people who have a lower ability for reason than some animals do.
Yeah, they are.
Who are defective, yes, you would say, humans.
Yeah.
So what's the barrier? What separates
the barrier? The barrier is that the barrier is that retarded son is my son, or my sister's son, or my neighbor's son.
I shouldn't have brought that up. That just muddies the water. Ignore that. Just answer for the animal.
Okay. What about the animal?
What separates a being of reason from a being without reason? What's that fine line?
The rational being has pure concepts, pure a priori semantic constructs, which are not representations. Animals don't even have representations. Animals have sensations and impulses and drives. But in order to have the capacity of choice, you must have the capacity of pure conceptuality, because that's the only way that a being stands back from the totality of all connections to judge by an independent standard in order to make what you could call a legitimate choice. Other than that, the only way that you come out of that story is you're always driven, or you're not making a choice because it's random.
How would you test this in animals? How would this be disproven to exist?
Any being that can actually reason can have language, and any animal that has language would be able to communicate with us. The only way they couldn't communicate with us is if they did not share our same existential domain at all.
What if they didn't want to?
Do you know anybody who's actually a social... Well, we established earlier, I told you. I established that to be a rational being, you must be a social being. And social beings are curious. Yes, there are pockets of social beings here or there that, cloister themselves away. But even within that, there are always curious beings. Somebody always wants to talk to you.
Okay. Well, obviously there are animals that have languages, right? So we're in what we would call languages. But so you're using a different definition of language than the generic one.
I don't even think that the normal linguists would qualify what animals do as language. We talk about I've heard talk about animals having communication. Communication is not language. Language is universal symbolic syntax. Animals don't have that.
Right. Have you read about prairie dogs?
Yeah, they don't have language. They have a very complicated.
Can I interject for a second?
Communication. Yeah, go
ahead. What about animals that adopt and independently use human linguistics, like Coco the gorilla with sign language?
I don't believe for a second that animal actually had any understanding of what she was saying. I've seen the critiques of that, and I'm convinced by the critiques that it was a lot of shoddy interpretation work being done.
What about gray parrots that can be trained to identify color, matter, and kinds of objects? You show them a red plastic bowl, and you say, "What is it?" They say, "Red plastic bowl," and you give them a treat.
That shows that there's a certain advanced kind of particular thinking, but that's still not universal thinking like what language requires.
What would make it universal thinking?
You would have to have universal syntax, like a universal symbolic syntax, and that can be spoken, that can be signed by hands, feet.
Well, don't they have a universal syntax for the color red?
No.
What's not universal about it?
Okay. Could you get that parrot to understand through pure linguistic speech that when you say rojo, you also mean that thing which they sensibly experience, that they already have the particular symbol red attached to? I don't think there's any proof that you can do that with any of those animals. Nobody's ever done that.
Is there any proof that we can't? They don't have that?
Buddy, we've been trying. We've been trying for a century. We've been trying for a century.
Not only that, but wait, wouldn't it also apply to humans? We need the connection to be established for us in some way, and then we can adopt that version of the language into our lexicon. But if somebody was raised all their life learning the color red and associating the word red with it, and then without any kind of context, without any physical demonstration, etc., somebody just said rojo, there's no reasonable way that somebody could glean that meant red unless you provided some form of communicational context, right?
No, you misunderstand what I mean. So obviously, if I'm going to communicate with you linguistically, I must already speak your language. I can't speak another language because otherwise we can't communicate. So the test that I'm talking about is you would have to speak in the language that the animal knows, purely linguistically. Go, red is in Chinese, whatever, or in Spanish, whatever.
Okay.
And that the animal would then immediately understand, oh, this other symbol is immediately this symbol, and it also symbolizes this one single experience that I have. No animal has ever expressed such capacity except a human being.
Let me just before I see, let me just make sure I understand a practical example of what this would be. You teach a gray parrot the red bowl, right? And then without any kind of supporting items, you tell the parrot red is rojo. And then you place two separate color bowls, one of them is red, one of them is not, in front of the bird, and you say choose rojo. Yeah. And it would need to pass this test, it would need to successfully choose the red bowl without any kind of support to do so. Okay.
Yeah, because once an animal can do that, they basically show the capacity for universal symbolic syntax, which is the most basic requirement of language. And if you have that, then you're basically at the standpoint in which you have the capacity for abstract thought. And now it may be possible that at that point you can have a being that is capable of representation, but is not yet capable of self-reflective representation. And we know that's possible because we have children. Children learn representation far before they become self-conscious about representation itself.
Mm-hmm. And so this is the defining ability for an animal to be able to have freedom, or a being to be able to have freedom.
Yeah, they will have
which
to be
is the
self-reflective,
qualifier for them to have some moral weight because they can express that universal good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barring that, I think that we still have moral duties, but the duties to those animals are not directly to them. They're through our own being. We have duties to human being, which entails duties to animals through our human being.
Because fulfilling those duties serves freedom?
Yes.
Okay. And we have to respect other humans because
they have freedom and it serves
other
our own
humans
freedom.
to express freedom.
Yes.
But we don't need all other humans for freedom, do we?
Yes, we do. Because we're not particular. The human being is universal. Like, you can't really have the actuality of freedom if you yourself are limited in your scope, because then you're actually not fulfilling the fullness of your own reasoning capacity.
No one's fulfilling the whole fullness of their reasoning capacity.
Indeed, and that's why we are not fully rational, but we are capable of increasing our rationality. And there is a certain point at which some people, very few, do achieve it, and so we know that it is achievable.
So if you decided, you saw a shipment going to another country of food, and you decided to drop some poison in it casually as you're walking by, would that ever affect your ability to develop your reason? You're never going to meet those people or engage with them in any way?
Yes. Like with the cruelty to animals thing, engaging in wanton cruelty is already a degradation of your own capacity to reason. You are disconnecting yourself from the social sentiments which enable reason. People don't think about this, but I do think about this, that as people become independently more cloistered, either through technology or through genetic engineering, people who, for understandable reasons, given like circumstances of life, will choose to destroy or get rid of their social emotions and needs. They will also, because of that, become increasingly more stupid, because a huge part of our reason to reason at all is to explain ourselves to other people. When we don't have other people we give a shit about, we don't have anybody we give a shit to reason anything for. So we are not generally compelled to reason on our own.
But people who have adopted Hermeticism will still engage in reason, won't they? Someone who believes they will never see another person again, whether delusionally or otherwise, can still engage in reason.
In many ways, somebody who's a hermit is actually not properly engaging in reason. They are not fulfilling their human potential.
Okay, we'll say they're forced into Hermeticism. Someone is trapped in a desert island they know they will never escape from. Can they not still engage in reason?
They can, but it's not going to be the perfection of reason. I mean, there's only so much you can think on your own. There's only so much you can understand on your own, and there's only so much you'll be fulfilled with on your own. The proper human being is a social being.
So if a society decided,
even the minimal, like let me give you one qualification. Even the minimal relationship of man to God is still at least a hopeful social relation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So our obligation to other rational beings is not based on their inherent rights. It's based on the service that provides to our own freedom.
No, it's based on their inherent rights, because the understanding of what I am involves those other people. When I understand my ontology as a human being, I understand that I am a recognitive being. They are a determination that also constitutes me. It's internal to me. They're actually not ontologically outside of me as a consideration. So I care about them not because I care about me. I my own caring about me is a caring for them, which I make no distinction because we are one in my reason.
Okay, so even if they did not advance your reason anyway, it would all still be the same.
Yeah, even with a child, right? Like you can still love a child and care for a child and, treat a child with respect, despite the fact that the child cannot reciprocate very much of anything to you. They can't really explain themselves. They can't really, teach you much of anything.
Well, I don't require reciprocation for any of my morals, so that doesn't.
You do.
That connection doesn't apply to me.
You do.
Well, if I did, then I wouldn't respect animals, which I do.
You do. You're the one who makes up these things called rights and moral duties to animals. The animals don't ask you for it. The animals don't demand you anything for it. They don't care whether you do it or not. Mm-hmm. So you do it not for the animals. You do it for you. You want to satisfy your own reasoning capacity. So you have a truncated form of recognition, but you are trying to recognize.
Well, then how is that any different from respecting humans? Because you're the one who made that distinction.
Well,
character.
For you just have a defective understanding of that. So you're projecting humanity and value on animals that they don't have. Mm-hmm. And obviously you can do that. You can be defective. And my world allows that. My worldview is one of the few worldviews in which people being wrong is totally real. And wrong, not just epistemically, wrong ontologically.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's a psychopath, right? They're not just wrong epistemically. They're ontologically wrong. They're a defective human being as a being, not just as their beliefs about being.
So how is you said that the relationship you have with a child to respect their dignity does not require reciprocation, and yet my relationship to respect animals does? That is what you said, but I think you would retract it once you realize it.
Well, no.
That is what you said. You might have not.
No. Hold on. I didn't finish. So I'm not saying no to what you just said, in general. So I'm going to say no to a very specific thing. Your relationship does require recognition. You are having a limited, truncated form of recognition in which, one, if those animals that you were trying to be so kind to were fucking chimpanzees that were constantly at war with you, you wouldn't be so kind to those chimpanzees. So you don't really care. Now, the chimpanzees, they're just doing what chimpanzees do.
I disagree.
They do that. Now,
no, I disagree that I wouldn't be kind to them.
Really? So if you were at war with the chimpanzees, you would continue to be kind to them?
I would protect myself from them, but I would not engage in any cruelty.
Well, they're not engaging in any cruelty with you. They're just going to do what monkeys do,
I didn't say they were.
Well, I'm saying they're at war with you. You know what chimpanzees can do, right?
I do. I wouldn't engage in cruelty against them.
Oh, right. I didn't say anything about being cruel. I'm saying you would not be kind.
Well, you said
them.
I would not be kind. What do you mean
You would not have this rosy colored thing I got these moral duties to the chimp and everything.
I would still treat them.
Would you still treat them well, hold on. I think you're being rosy, colored with your glasses here. Take into account what these animals can do, what they are known to do, and put yourself in that situation in which you're going to be under attack, actually under attack. You're not going to be under attack, behind your bars or whatever. You're going to be actually under attack, and you can't reason with these beings. The only way to protect yourself, what does it mean to protect yourself? You're going to have to kick some ass. You're going to have to kill somebody. And you're probably going to have to kill a lot because they don't stop just because you kill one.
Okay, and so you're saying that I would repeal my dignity that I have towards them? My treatment of their dignity in this situation.
I don't think that you really believe they have dignity. Once you're put in a natural situation yourself, you're just going to have to deal with them as they deal with you. They don't understand speech, they don't understand rights. So you're gonna have to. They understand force and territory, and enforcement of that kind. And so all of this highfalutin talk that you have about the morality of these beings and your relationship to them breaks down to their relationship to you ultimately. And the only reason you get away with having the view that you have right now is because you live in a human world where you can have, and you rightfully should have, an outlook that's benevolent to other beings, because indeed you have no, as a rational being, you have no reason to go be and kill them for no reason. You have no reason to be cruel. Cruelty just ultimately, it has no reason at all. Like, people can try to justify, oh, we were trying to get information for the terrorists. You can't actually justify it. Like, we know that empirical doesn't work. And secondly, like, even if it could work, it harms your own capacity to ultimately be rational. It degrades your own capacity to love. It degrades your own capacity to, be at home in the world with other beings. Because the aim of the human being to be free is not to be free among human beings. It's to be free absolutely. How can you be free if you find you love all human beings, but everything else you're at war with? That's not a world of actual freedom.
Okay. If I assume you would say that like watching cockfighting and enjoying cockfighting would fit under this category.
Yeah, that's bad.
Gay.
Okay. And so you think that someone who watches cockfighting has a degraded ability to love other people?
Yeah, maybe they do. Like I said, maybe they do love humans. I think most humans like generally like humans, and they dismiss animals as just kind of like you can do whatever. Those people, sure, they haven't degraded the capacity to love humans yet, but they clearly have a degraded capacity for love, which should not be the case because the human is universal.
Why? Because they aren't hurt by seeing the pain of animals?
Because if you understand the ontology of the world, you understand that those beings are tied and bound up with you, just as you are tied and bound up with them. And you recognize that in a very important sense, their being and your being is bound up. And even though you don't physically depend on them, or even at some point psychologically depend, they're not going to give you therapy or anything, right? Animals out in the wild aren't doing anything for you. Even then, there is an aesthetic sense that the human being properly has, in which they, just like, people they like understanding for no purpose other than understanding. Like it's when you hear something new and it's like just blows your brain and you're not going to do anything with it, right? It's just cool. It's just like, wow, like that's amazing that there is such a thing, right? So that's part of our constitution as a human being. That's a form of recognition. We're recognizing our own intelligence in that, not intelligence as like, your IQ, but intelligence as like intelligibility. Likewise, the sense of beauty is also a form of recognition. And when you recognize animals as free, they're beautiful. And you also get enjoyment. You just love them for no reason other than that they're free. Like you love their freedom itself because you love freedom in general, not just this or that freedom.
So it hurts you to see things that are not free?
Yeah.
Okay, so it should hurt you to see livestock that are not free?
No. Look, I'm of the position
Are the livestock free?
Yeah. Look, man,
They
like for
are.
example, right? Yes, they are. If you have a free-range farm, for example, are the cows suffering? No. Are the chickens suffering? No.
Absolutely. You've never been on a free-range farm.
Well, I mean, you've
I've
been
worked
on
on
some
a free-range farm.
Oh,
Let me
right.
tell you, dude, they do.
Yeah. If you work at a farm, you're working at a business. Is a business actually, in it for the well-being of anything except their bottom line?
A free-range farm is a business.
Well, yes. Is a business in it for anything other than their bottom line? So then you can't point to a business as like
you pointed to a
disproof of
business.
this. I didn't point to the business. I said a free-range
You
farm.
said a free-range farm.
I didn't say a business farm. People have farms without having a business.
99.9%.
Right.
Well,
I'm not talking
so
about.
You should have used the clarifier if it's an extraordinary outlier.
Okay. Well, we've been talking about ontology, man. Obviously, I'm not talking about empirical stuff. I don't care. I told you I don't care about averages.
You earlier accused me of appealing to outliers unreasonably, but
I'm not.
Okay.
Yes, you appeal to outliers that are empirical outliers, which is bad. Obviously, and
You're
then I didn't.
Okay, no,
now you're being dishonest. Now you're being dishonest. You're being dishonest because
I'm
even when you made that point earlier. Well, I'm gonna clarify it. So even when you made that point earlier, I corrected you and I said, I'm not appealing to the averages, and I gave you the example.
No, I understand what you mean. I was wrong in what I just said.
Okay.
Those are not comparable. So I understand that.
Okay. All right.
So you agree. So in drawing this distinction, you say, well, what about a beautiful free range farm? So you agree that conventional agricultural industry should be offensive to the human sense of freedom.
It's bad.
Okay. Oh, it is immoral.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you fund it?
Probably.
Do you eat meat?
Even if I didn't, I'm still funding it. I pay taxes. They're subsidized.
You don't pay. It's not. Well, you don't have a choice in that.
It doesn't matter. So what does your choice matter about that? So if you're forced into doing bad things, are you exonerated? Not in my worldview. Not in my worldview. You can't say I was forced to kill the innocent family.
So you believe that we shouldn't pay taxes, and a human that pays taxes is a degraded human from the rational ideal?
Well, I didn't say that.
I know you didn't say. I'm asking because that seems like a conclusion of what you're saying.
No,
so you
no.
say
Like,
this is wrong.
You're talking about
you said
categorical.
that your taxes go to something that's wrong, and you said just because you're forced to do something wrong doesn't make it okay.
Yeah, it's not okay.
So it's not okay to pay taxes.
If your conscience is burned so much by that, go ahead and don't pay them.
I didn't ask about my conscience. I asked about you and your ontology.
Again, in my ontology, we have no duties to animals.
Then you just said that we should act based on what should be offensive to us, because that's in our inherent relationship to freedom, but that this behavior should be offensive.
Have no rights. So let me make a distinction I haven't made. So I'll give it to you that what I've said so far has not qualified what I'm going to say, but I'll qualify it now. So insofar as we have what I would call duties to ourselves to love animals and to love nature in general, not just animals, like existence itself. Let's say. That is not a moral demand. It is normative. So there's a big difference between normativity and morality. Morality is one kind of normativity. You should like good art. But if you don't like good art, which most people don't, you're not an immoral person. You're not a bad person. You're an incomplete person. You're not what you should be. But that
okay, so it does not make you a bad person to not love animals.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, and when I asked earlier about cockfighting, you said that
that's
you shouldn't
wrong.
like cockfighting.
That's wrong.
It's immoral, right? Cockfighting is immoral.
Yes, that's wrong.
Because
cruelty itself is not justified.
Well, how is it cruelty? They like seeing the action.
Because we know why we're doing it for the pain. We're doing it just to see that it gets your rocks off. The animals themselves.
I don't think that's necessarily okay. Well, for someone who just likes the showmanship, they like the action, they like the drama.
No, they don't.
Like
that's
the
not
pain,
true.
but that's just how it has to happen.
Well, that's not true.
That's hypothetical.
It can't be hypothetical because that's just not true.
There's no one in the world. It's impossible that someone like that exists.
Yes. If anybody tells you that, they're lying. I guarantee it.
I didn't say someone told me that. It's a hypothetical.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It is inherently impossible.
Listen. Yes. I'm saying it's inherently impossible. So if anybody ever reported such a thing, they would be lying.
So why? What's the contradiction?
They know exactly what's going on. Do you think people are like
that's just a random appeal. They know. Tell me what is the logical contradiction?
They know what's going on. You know what it is, right? So
we're talking about the
yes, cockfighting.
Yes,
you know what cockfighting is, right?
Yes.
How would a person not know what is actually going on? So if they know what's going on because they fucking see it, it doesn't take a genius to understand what's going on.
Okay.
A fucking 70 IQ retard
like
could
something
understand.
That involves cruelty. It's not just that they can't like cruelty, they can't like things that cause cruelty.
No, I didn't say they can't. They shouldn't. It's not humane. It's not part of the human being.
It's immoral.
It's immoral and it's not normative to the sentiments of being a
well,
rational
that's
being.
what I'm talking about. So it is immoral to like something that causes cruelty.
Well, it is cruelty.
Well, what part of it? Obviously, the creation of those videos is cruelty.
Like for example, like, you know, something less extreme.
That's what you mean, the creation of it?
You know, a less extreme thing, right? People who overfeed their animals and have obese animals because they think it's cute, right? That's cruelty.
Yeah.
Right. You agree with that?
Because it's only they don't like the suffering, but it's only possible because of the cruelty, and they are willing.
Yeah,
to do that.
and they know it. It's
so how does that not
pretty
apply?
impossible.
Okay, so how does that not apply to purchasing meat from the current meat industry?
Again, like, animals have no rights.
Okay, but you are paying for something that you know involves cruelty, which you just said is wrong.
Yes. And, you know, if you want to die on that hill, you want to not pay your taxes, go ahead. I have more important shit in my life.
I'm asking about
it is your hill.
My reasoning is different. My reasoning for these things is different than yours.
In my world, like I said, we have no. Yeah. Okay. So you asked me again. I know. That's why you asked me.
Right.
And right now I asked you, and you're like, and now you said you asked me, so now I'm answering. So again, in my world, we have no duties to animals. It's not because there's cruelty to animals that we should or should not do.
That's not relevant. It doesn't matter.
It is relevant because you're again making it a moral thing. Like, oh, there's cruelty here. So what? That doesn't matter.
You said that enjoying something that involves cruelty is bad.
It's about doing things that on the human level regarding ourselves do. You know, you asked, do I buy? Wait, hold on. Let's go back. No. You're misunderstanding my whole position. Again, like, I'm ontological and you're not. So I'm not like you, where you can pull up propositions from midair and pretend that we can talk about them and make moral judgments. Like, my whole thing is about a whole system. In my system, I already told you, the animals as such do not have any moral standing. Okay. So, and again, because we have no duty.
I have no premise on the duty to animals.
Yeah.
There's no premise there. I don't care. It's not relevant.
So then, what did I just say like 4 minutes ago about the distinction between the aesthetic and the moral? I think that indeed,
right? You said it
the
is
cruelty.
Immoral. Right. I wanted to clarify this. You said it's immoral to enjoy things that are cruel, that cause cruelty.
Yes. But in the way in it's not a categorical thing in the way that you're treating it. So in the case where it involves animals, like you said earlier, and I agreed with you, there are people who can be perfectly loving to people and just like don't give a shit about animals, treat animals like garbage. Mm-hmm. Those people are not being immoral in regards to that animal because the animal has no moral standing anyways.
I understand
and in the case of the fact that they don't love animals and don't give a shit, does that make them a bad person? Again, no.
I understand that.
So then why are you bringing it up? Because when you brought it up again, you're bringing up this categorical
I told
cruelty.
You I don't want to bring that up.
All right, so then don't bring up the categorical cruelty thing because that's not actually the issue. The issue still, you're making it about animals, so we stick to animals.
Yeah, this is about my thesis is that your diet, your consumption, your consumer lifestyle is immoral by your standards.
No, not by my standards.
And I just said that's my thesis. I didn't assert it for you to tell me what you think. Obviously, I know that you disagree. So that has nothing to do with. That does not assert necessarily that it comes from the animals, that it's about the animals. That's not part of it. What you said is that in the example of overfeeding your pet because you find it cute, it is wrong, immoral, to enjoy something that is created by cruelty.
Knowingly.
Yes.
Yeah, because you have to know. You can't be immoral if you don't know.
Please don't bring in. So that's everything. That's that's all of it. You don't need to bring in duties or anything else because that's not my argument.
All right.
Those things are not relevant.
So
to dispute.
So also remember I made the distinction.
Why does that not apply? So what distinction are you referring to?
Okay, the aesthetic versus the moral distinction.
I know, and we've totally cut out the aesthetic.
No. This is aesthetic.
Simplify my premise
this is aesthetic.
Even more. The immorality of overfeeding your pet is identical in form to the immorality of your consumption of meat.
No.
Okay, why?
Because from my standpoint, neither of those is immoral.
You already said it was.
No, like that was.
You did say that. You might not believe it, but you did say it.
No, I know what I said. I remember. So I know why you think that I said that, but I'm not saying what you're saying. So you're repeating my words, but what you interpret, I know is not what I'm interpreting by my own words. So that's why we need to clarify. So that's why I brought up the whole aesthetic thing. There are norms. So one of the things that is my position is that there's a normative rule that we should love animals, just like there's a normative rule that you should like good art.
I don't want to talk about that.
No, this is essential. This is the distinction. This is the distinction that I have that you don't have. So it is essential.
The only distinction I want is between.
We don't need to go over that. No. We don't get to play. We don't get to play with your little abstraction.
So why don't we have to go over my argument?
Because this is my response.
That's my entire argument. If you can dispute that, that's my argument.
Yet I don't need to go over that because just like you can't dispute my ontology, so the ontological picture was not fully painted. That's why I'm making this distinction because it didn't come up before. Like, do you understand that I'm making a further qualification that was implicit, but obviously you wouldn't know because you don't know me. But so I'm now making it explicit. Can I do that?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So given that animals have no moral standing, given that on the human level, obviously we have norms, but not all norms are moral. You have a norm, I do believe this, you have a norm to love your family. Does it make you a bad person, immoral, if you don't love your family? No, maybe your families are dicks. Maybe all this or that. Maybe you're just a psychopath. It doesn't fucking matter. So long, morality belongs to your actions and your reasons for actions.
I understand.
Okay. So since animals don't belong in any of that, regardless of what you do to animals, regardless of what's going on in the animal or even what you do, since they have no call, and since your own calling is simply immorality regarding human beings, because animals will have no standing within the social world of human beings who are the ones who hold you accountable through ethical situations. The animal question that you're bringing up is completely out of my system in that way. And yet I do hold something like veganism to be normative. So what do I mean? Like I said, it's like aesthetics. It's a norm. You ought to be given what you are. But given that it only develops as an internal development, people can't make you love them. You can't be made to love animals. That just has to grow out of you. So however that happens for you, whenever that happens for you.
Can you please answer my question? Is cockfighting against non-ethical norms, or is it immoral?
My position then is to clarify it's wrong on a normative level, but it's not immoral.
Okay, well, you said earlier it was immoral, so this is your
fault. Right. Okay, yeah, sure. I'll admit to that. I phrased it wrong because we were having a certain discussion. But this is a distinction that I do have.
I'll just say this, and this isn't really an argument. I'm just going to say this. My belief is that this is always almost always what happens when I speak to people who are non-vegan, and I believe not that your true position is what you just said, but that your true position is what you said earlier, and are now
you don't know me. You don't know me.
Because
Baron has actually talked to me about this.
This is a pattern that I see. I think you're fitting into a pattern. It's possible I'm wrong. People are
okay, man. I don't want to have a meta discussion about you trying to psychologize what's going on. I get it. You're a vegan. We can talk about the metaphysics. I'm interested in that. I don't care about your moralizing. So, if you don't want to talk any further, if you're bored of the discussion, fine. I don't need you to preach at me about what I believe and why I believe it. I have many hours of this stuff. I have essays on it, so I know what I believe. Indeed, I will admit I phrased something wrong that gave a bad impression. That's on me. I'll give it to you. I admit it. But now I have clarified it. So don't speak for me. about what I actually believe.
I told you it wasn't an argument. I told you it was a comment.
Oh, right. I don't want to hear it. So period. I don't need your preaching.
Well, you've went on many minutes of
I don't
a collect.
I didn't preach at you. I was explaining to you an argument. So don't preach at me. Again, you want to have a discussion, we can continue. Don't preach at me.
This for my morals, and that your morals are much better, and that your.
Okay, man. See, this is what happens with vegans. You don't actually, you have actually no interest in the argument, do you? You just wanted to come here and preach. And like, I can say the same thing about you, except it's true for you. You were here just to preach. I was giving you an account, that's why I was trying to be thorough with like giving at least a general structure of my metaphysics for you to understand where I'm coming from. I don't care that you agree or disagree. Like, that's not why I explain it. You asked me, and so I give an explanation.
That I've done between preaching and argumentation.
You still preaching?
I'm asking you. Well, you made a claim.
Are you still preaching? Yes or no?
Responding to it. No.
Okay, good. Do you want to continue a discussion on this or something else? We can continue to discuss. I'm perfectly fine.
Do you think that it was
I'm not going to have
to what you would call?
I'm not going to have a meta discussion. Do you want to continue on this topic, or do you want to move to something else? And if you want to preach, or if you don't like talking to me because you think I'm dishonest or whatever, I guess we're done then. Like, it's that easy. Like.
I think you're. All my thoughts are things that you would that you wouldn't want to hear, and I want to respect that because I do respect people.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I don't care. I don't care what you think about me. It's just like, if we want to have a discussion, I want to have a discussion about things.
Okay. Well, you did share what you thought about me. We had that indulgence. I think we both did that. So if you don't care about animals.
I mean, you haven't made an argument positively. Do you have a positive argument? I mean, I'll listen to you if you have a positive argument for it.
It would take another hour. I mean, we would have to completely rebuild the basis.
Is it really?
I have a completely different.
Is it metaphysical?
No, it's completely different.
What's metaphysical?
No. Well, no.
So how complex can it be?
It's an etymology.
I mean, it cannot be more complicated than what I gave you, because mine is complicated. I admit to that.
No, it's not. It's not more complicated than what you gave, but we just already spent too much time on that. There are some similarities. I mean, eudaemonist, and yeah, it would take. We could do that another day, but it would just take too much time. I'm not afraid of having that. It would take too much time, and I think you can understand what I mean by that.
No, yeah. At this point. Some other day you can do that. I'm willing to. For one, you don't meet many eudaimonists. I assume Aristotelian, but Aristotle isn't the only one, so maybe you're not. So that'd be interesting in and of itself.
Yeah, but there's a lot of overlap there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'd be interesting in and of itself, and it's also, I mean, that will be a new kind of argument that I'm hearing, because most people are utilitarians. Most people are. Or they have these Kantians, which I think Kantianism really doesn't work for veganism.
No, yeah, I don't think Kantianism works in general. I think it's sort of odd how prominent it became, but that's just my commentary.
Yeah, I definitely disagree. I think that if you're going to be a moralist, you're either a virtue ethicist or you're a Kantian. There really isn't another choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think virtue ethicists make much more sense. I think Kantianism.
Have you read Kant?
I've read sections of him in classes that I've taken. I'm a philosophy student. I haven't read.
I haven't
read his primary text yet, which I plan to do.
You should. Yeah, because it's actually far more detailed than people are aware of. It goes into far more things than you ever thought.
Yeah, well, I'm partially parroting the view of people I know personally who are more experienced in that and have told me that. So part of that is not, fully my own analysis, which I would like to make.
I mean, because my view personally, about like what I think about my own view, I think I'm basically a synthesis of like Kant and Aristotle. Like I think Kant's categorical imperative basically implies like a shitload of what is in the virtue ethicist position. And like Kant, like I said, he has a virtue ethics within his own morality, his own moral system.
Yeah, well, that's what he was building off of. It's, sort of the basis off of what he was forming.
Because the categorical imperative is just basically being. Categorical imperative is basically the identity of being, the unity of being.
Yeah, duty and would the form be duty and virtue have a lot of overlap, slightly different form.
So yeah, I take offense at saying Kant is pretty bad, because I don't think he's pretty bad on that actually.
On what?
On morality.
On what?
Like,
I'm not saying that he's stupid or something. Obviously, I'm just saying I think that he took. I mean, for a long time, he literally took over academics. Right, every philosopher was a Kantian for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And I think that's too much. That's what I mean.
What? Bro, that's not even a problem. If you're good, you're good. I mean, you can't hate that.
I don't think he can. From what I've read, I don't think he completely surpassed, which is what they treated him as because they thought he solved these issues. I think they wanted. Kant had a practical. Kant's philosophy had a practical utility to the societies that took it up. So I guess I would say he's overrated if I was saying it in a sort of childish.
I would actually
sense.
agree with that. I would agree with that. Yeah, he is overrated, but you have to take into context like what his background is, and that you have to realize that the study of Plato and taking Aristotle seriously, like it had all like gone away for a good reason. That much of the Platonic and like Aristotelian vestiges that were like there in the medieval period just kind of became like scholasticism just kind of ruined it, and so people's reactions
they were required
understandable.
To distort them.
Yeah, people's reactions were understandable, and so like just like people assume that scientists know what they're talking about, people assume, hey, my professor was an expert in this and that, he must have known what he's talking about, and if he's the one who exposed it to me, and I thought he was stupid, so then the other guy must be stupid. Don't waste time on him.
Mm-hmm.
People do that. I mean, it's reasonable.
Everyone does that, has to do that to some degree. You can't be an expert on everything.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can excuse yourself from being critical about the way you do it and inspecting it when need be.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard.
But obviously the vast majority of the beliefs that we hold are things that we have just accepted being told because we couldn't possibly be experts on all of these things. And I think that's a much better thing to do in certain disciplines than others, because in certain disciplines, the consequence of your own thought into it is more important. So I would say for politics and philosophy and the realms like that in the humanities is more important than needing to completely, read, 20 texts of germ theory to make sure that what someone told you is correct about this.
No, yeah, and like I said, like if you look in the background of where Kant comes from, like Kant was a genius. Like he did bring up certain solutions to very terrible problems, and he also made new problems that were just as bad. But it blew people's minds because I did not know this until like very late in my studies in philosophy. Kant is the first true epistemologist. Like before him, the people were doing what they thought was epistemology first, but they weren't really doing it. Kant's the first guy who finally does it. And it was a revolution. It really did change everything, rightfully so. It changes the whole game of how you see everything.
I guess. There obviously were epistemologists in the skeptics and the Pyrrhonians and schools related to that, but you could argue that those were dramatically more primitive than what Kant developed.
Yeah, they weren't properly epistemologists because they actually had no interest in epistemology itself. Like they were interested in more of the issue of justification, which can be both a metaphysical, logical, and epistemic issue. And so they didn't really care. They attacked all three, and it was a methodological thing. Kant's epistemological turn is literally that Kant makes knowledge the foundation of ontology for the first time. Nobody had done that before.
You must hate the pragmatists, right? That's like the opposite of your ideology.
No, I consider myself a radical pragmatist, more pragmatic than the pragmatists. I think that they weren't pragmatic enough, that they were delusional.
Well, pragmatist, capital P, not the adjective. I don't think those are interchangeable.
Well, yeah, I know that the people call themselves. I think Peirce. These people were only partially pragmatic in a superficial sense, but when
I don't think the name matters. It's just a name.
Well, I'm not talking about the name. I'm talking about like what pragmatism means, like as a category, like coherently. That's about practice, and the only practice that they were really worried about was external, empirical practice, which has nothing to do with truth. And so, the whole pragmatic theory of truth is complete nonsense. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
it's the other guy. It's not you.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry, I disconnected.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Yeah.
What was I saying? The pragmatic thing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't respect the pragmatic theory of truth. It's basically like, things work until they don't. Which is a theory.
I don't know if we're talking about the same thing.
Pragmatism. Peirce, James.
Yeah. Okay. Things work until they don't. I don't understand that description.
Yeah, like that's
I've
their
only read
theory.
James, so
yeah, I mean that's their position. Things are true because they work, right?
No. Well,
No?
I guess maybe you could frame it like when I'm talking about James. That's the only pragmatist I've read. So maybe I'm using that term too broadly. I'm referring to James' idea that we should believe whatever, or that our truth should be whatever leads to the most good. That whatever belief leads to us creating whatever the good is, achieving whatever the good is, being whatever the good is the belief that we should hold.
And how do you find out what the good is?
Well, that's not the epistemology.
Well, that is entirely the epistemology.
Well, I'm obviously that's very important, but I mean that framework. It seems like you have the inverse, that you would dislike the idea that that our only criteria for truth should be whatever beliefs lead us to create the good.
Look,
and to reject any concept of objective or empirical.
Absolutely not. I agree with what you said, except once you'd establish what the good is, you're going to establish an ontology, and now you're going to hang yourself because you can't play the game of like, well, what works is what ends up being true, because what works on an ontological sense is not necessarily what's going to work to your empirical necessities. Something might ultimately work out 200 years after you've been working on it. But you don't have 200 years to work on it, as an individual, right? You don't have 200 years to prove to your society that, you should invest all this time to figure out this one thing that's going to pay off in 200 years. Nonetheless, that might be the case. So, I'm not against what you said, but like the ontology makes and breaks
because you see them as you see them as one of the same. So, but yours is based first in truth, because yours is based on empirical realities that you see, or I guess they're not empirical realities; they're rationalist realities.
Well, I mean, the rational reality is an empirical reality. It's just empirical in the broad sense of experience. It's not just sense experience.
I mean, empiricalism versus rationalism is the terminology I'm using.
Yeah, but I don't stand with that division. Like my position is both empirical and rationalist, so it's just like Kant.
Well, obviously, you don't have to be one or the other, but I'm saying ideas can be, or different concepts can be divided or marked along that spectrum.
Sure, but I mean,
not that
then
you have to be one or the other.
Well, yeah, but I'm completely in both camps. I have a completely rational necessity to my knowledge, and that knowledge will also necessarily have to present itself empirically. So you cannot have like something that is completely rational and say that it's not going to empirically show up. It's not possible.
What? So you think that empirical realities can disprove even if the logic seems to go in one direction?
So like, you cannot say like, well, logically it's a possibility that there are square circles, and have no actual empirical like expression of that kind of entity. And by empirical, I mean experiential in the broad sense. It can be intellectually empirical. Like mathematics, for example, I would say does have an empirical element as far as the intellect and semantics go. It's not obviously sensuously empirical.
Well, it's not derived from that, but it is an example of something that comes from reason and then can be affirmed through empirical study. I guess what would be an example of something
I disagree with that. I think reason is derived empirically.
Okay, so then you are an empiricist. You're not a rationalist.
No, again, I told you my empiricism. My empiricism is not sensuous. So I'm empiricist in the broad sense of experience, not in the narrow sense that empiricism is. So you derive reason through the experience of reasoning, but that's not a sense experience, as regarding the physical senses. It's a sense experience regarding the sense of intellect, of thinking, semantics. And the rationalists were not against a position of a development of things. They were against the position that you got them from the physical senses.
Right, that would make you an empiricist. I think that's just...
No, an empiricist is somebody, the classical term applies to people who believe that everything comes from the senses. When I talk about reason is empirical, I'm talking about experience in the broad sense of what is within the mind. One of the things in the mind, within consciousness, is intellect itself, like structural intellect, and you develop that. You can develop that a priori without reference to any physical sense, so it's not empiricism in that sense. Oh no, they're disconnected again.
Oh, I can hear you now.
I mean, I just call myself an empirical rationalist or rationalist empiricist. I mean, like it boils down to logic, phenomenology. You could say like absolute phenomenology, which is just thinking, logic.
But if all the logic is then based on is then confirmed by observation, then that's just empiricism.
What kind of observation? What kind of observation?
Well, what kind is sensory observation?
No, I literally
sensory observation.
Did you not hear what I said? I said my empiricism is broader than the senses experience, the physical senses. So when I talk about experience, I'm talking about anything that's really within your consciousness. One of those things is semantics, pure semantics, which has no reference to any physical thing. So that's the experience of reasoning, which is a priori, precisely because it does not require the senses. A priori has nothing to do with temporal orders of development. You can still have development a priori and be a rationalist without being a typical empiricist. Like I'm fine with being called an empiricist, but most empiricists would not acknowledge that what I'm talking about is in the camp of empiricism.
Yeah, it's not. It's. Oh, yeah. So there has to be. And you don't do you and neither of those are favored over the other. If they came to disagree, you'd say it's impossible for them to disagree.
On the absolute level, no, they can't really disagree. But that's again because my view of experience is broader than the regular view that people have.
Okay.
Like, you know how people think, like, especially with the epistemological issues of skepticism, that you cannot actually like prove or disprove like metaphysics one way or the other because, formally they're equally valid.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, my position is you actually can, and they are equally valid, but they're also equally invalid. And there's a third position that straddles them that violates the law of contradiction and the law of the excluded middle. I mean, that's how Hegelianism works.
Mm-hmm. Did you say where's your is your value of freedom just a first principle, or you believe that's the inherent quality of rational beings to want to express their reason through freedom?
I think that's the inherent quality of being itself.
Okay.
I mean, like, freedom
but
is
it's an inherent quality
self-determination.
that's not that cannot exist because it can be defied.
It can fail to be within certain beings due to the quality of the natural realm, because the natural realm is one in which things are contingently bound, and so you can have an imperfect rationality. But nonetheless, it still has to show up in the world. Like, for example, I don't believe that it is logically possible that there could be a world in which freedom will not manifest. Because to be, even in the most basic sense, is already an expression of freedom.
Yeah, but why does it? I mean, this is just the fundamental thing. I don't. Your moral ontology. I don't see why things should be compelled to be a way they are not, because obviously they prove that is something that can exist. You say, well, things are always becoming; they're not becoming. So you're appealing to how things are, but this thing is the way it is.
Yeah, but in a categorical sense, that's where like I'm a bit of a I'm unified with Kant, even though Kant wouldn't agree that I am unified with him in that way. I think the categorical imperative is basically an ontological thing rather than than a logical thing. In fact, Kant says, well, you can't. Stealing is bad because everybody steals, and like stealing can't even be a thing because nobody has properties. Like the whole thing is self-undermining. That's being. Being cannot be self-contradictory in a very specific kind of way, because if it was, it just wouldn't be. But here it is.
Okay.
So clearly that's not the case.
So it's that everything could be becoming, but it is impossible to be not becoming. So therefore everything should be becoming.
It's not that it should. Well, we can put in that ought, and like I allow for that. Like in my system, we have amoral oughts. Dang it. What time is that? Oh, sorry, Beck. Hello?
Hello?
3:15. Sorry, my train of thought dropped there. What was I saying?
You said that that something not becoming doesn't have to be an ought, but it can be.
Yeah. I have ontological oughts that, like I said, there's the difference between norms and morality. Morality is one kind of norm, one
Okay,
domain
but something
of norms.
destroying itself violates the morality.
Yeah. So what an ought is for me is specifically a later development of something that's inherent to what it is, that it is not yet, and which under normal conditions in which it was allowed to flourish, it would be. Now, if a thing does not, it's like a seed, right? You can have the seed in a bad environment in which it won't become what it ought to be, but still ought to germinate, but given its conditions it can't. And you can have a position in which given the kind of being that it structurally is as part of a kind, it ought to be genetically viable, but maybe it's a genetically unviable seed. It's just conceived mutations, whatnot. So that's a bad seed. You get the difference what I'm talking about? So I do allow that you can say that ontologically this thing ought to be the case.
I understand what you mean. So as we said before, polio is immoral because it is destructive. It doesn't.
Well, it's bad. It's not immoral. It's just bad.
What's the difference?
Morality belongs to conscious.
Okay, so it should not exist, and it is moral to prevent it from existing or to limit it or something.
Sure.
Okay. Because it is against becoming, but I mean, I guess that would just get into the category.
It's against being. It's totally with becoming. I mean, it helps things cease to be, which is part of becoming. But
yeah.
I mean, and look, even I do believe in God, and so I do believe the world as a whole actually has an entire purpose, and so it may be the case that God does use diseases, which are not inherently from God, but from sub beings that deviate the plan of God. But God knows about it, and He uses those things. So God can send polio to somebody who, for whatever reason, God thinks they're morally deserve it. And how that works, nobody knows, but it's a possibility in my world.
Okay, so polio could be good, and we don't know.
Yeah, it could be. In the Bible, God sends plagues, to do justice.
Okay, so the real answer to is polio bad is we don't know.
Well, no, I told you, as a kind, it's bad, but
how could God will something?
It's relative. It's relative. So is polio bad for you?
Might want something that is bad. Doesn't that violate the concept?
No, it's relative. It's relative. It's relative to you. So it's like the whole issue of consequences, right? This is why Kant is against consequentialism, because empirical consequentialism is unknowable. You do one thing, right? We fossil fuels, let's say. 100 years ago, we thought that this was a magical miracle thing. Oh my God, we're going to be so productive and whatnot, and we're going to live in the future, in like 50 years where nobody's going to have to work. Didn't turn out that way, and in fact, it turned out to be, a terrible thing for global climate, whatever, right? So we couldn't tell that 100 years ago. Nobody could tell that, rationally speaking. Some people had random insights, that this could happen, but, they really didn't have good reasons to say that it would. So something may look good right now, and it turned out to be very bad down the line. Something may look bad right now, turn out very good down the line. Bad things have happened in my life that I think ultimately have turned out to be actually quite good. You sound very far or something. No, it sounds like your mic is like really fuzzy, muffled. There you go. Oh, okay. Try.
Is this better?
You still sound muffled. It sounds better.
Actually, I know what's wrong. Is this better?
There you go.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I know where the microphone is now. So polio is bad, but could be outweighed by good things to actually be overall good.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I mean, this is standard Christian doctrine. You've heard it before, right? Like, God allows evil, and then still uses evil to do good things.
Yeah, I've heard Christians say. I don't know if that's in the Bible or what. I've heard Christians say that.
It is.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read most of it. I've only read a few of the first books out of interest. So, are you a Christian, or this is just a comparison you're making?
I am, but also this is a theodicy that I have separate from Christianity.
So you believe in Christ? You worship Christ?
Yeah.
Okay, doesn't Christ make some statements that don't seem to fully align with the rest of your philosophy that you've worked out here?
Not as far as I know of.
Okay, what would an example be of that? What does he say? Do you believe that do you believe that all Christian values would also come from your philosophy in the same way, or that they just stack on top of each other and don't contradict?
You sound muffled. I couldn't tell what you said, like in the middle of that.
Do you believe that all of the values from your ontology also, or everything in Christianity would be affirmed by your ontology? Or that it's more like a Venn diagram and they just complement each other?
I would say that as far as the teachings of Christ, like explicitly, yeah. As far as the teachings of the churches down the line, I have some views that would probably be considered heretical.
Okay. So does your ontology say that wealth is bad?
No.
Does Christ not say that a wealthy man cannot enter the kingdom of heaven?
No. What he said was, it is easier for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than a wealthy man to get to heaven. The reason is not because wealth itself is bad. Well, yeah. Well, the reason is not because wealth is bad. The reason is because if you got a lot of shit, it's probably because you love a lot of shit. And that's what's going to keep you out of heaven. So wealth itself is not bad. No. Again, you misunderstand. And if you read anybody in the church, they will tell you what I'm saying. Nobody interprets that, oh, you're rich and you have a lot of money, therefore you're going to hell. That's not what it's saying. And that was obvious to me even before I got into Christianity. What that's saying is, if you got a lot of shit, you probably love a lot of shit, and so that's what's going to keep you. So,
but he doesn't. Why doesn't he say probably?
Because Christ.
He essentially says it is impossible for a wealthy man to enter the kingdom of heaven.
Well, he didn't say it's impossible for a wealthy man. Again,
you're
misreading it.
It's easier.
It's easier, but
he said an impossible act is easier than this, which means it's impossible.
For God, nothing is impossible. Second,
well, it's impossible for
second. Wait, hold on. So second upon that, Christ is not a philosopher. He's not making these absolute propositions, because you know very well, right, that he contradicts himself explicitly across various things because he's trying to make a point at different points with different people. And so, at one point he says, love. One of those is, love your mother and your father. And another one he says, if you don't hate your mother and your father over me, you don't love me and you're going to be damned. Which is it? Are you supposed to love your mother and your father regardless, or are you supposed to hate them, because of Christ? Is that a categorical thing he's saying? No, he's saying in a certain context. Likewise, there were rich people, literally, that followed him. They were they gave to his ministry. They gave him places to live. They gave the apostles land for churches and things. Rich people were part of the church from the very beginning, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think my personal opinion is that the church does not follow, is not faithful to those teachings. But
I would say, I would think that the guys who lived with him probably would know him better than you. I mean, we're talking about the apostles. We're not talking about people
well,
200
we don't
years
have
later.
any record of the church. We don't have.
Bro, if you go that far, you don't have records of Jesus either. So you can't say, well, I believe Jesus was better, because you don't know what Jesus had then. You can't trust anything in the Bible. So
I guess I don't know a lot about the descriptions of the church leading up to the time in which it was written, and the first few popes.
This is before the popes. This is in the writings from the apostles.
Didn't
from the
Jesus
first
have
century.
a direct successor who was like the first pope? Wasn't that how they talk about him?
The Catholics claim that. The Orthodox don't accept that. Most others don't accept that.
Okay, well, I'm much more familiar with the Catholic view than the Orthodox. We don't have Orthodox where I live.
The Orthodox claim, Peter was just the first among equals, and like there was no special privilege they had. It was a privilege of all apostles. Which bears out, like the records that we have of the early church are basically that, that there seemed to be no special privilege to any particular head of the church, of the, what are they called? The autonomous churches. I forget, there's a special term for that. But anyways, I mean, I don't really care about like church history in that way, and I don't really care about like church doctrines, because like they can err, and they have erred on all sides. Protestants, Catholics, the Orthodox all have checkered histories with their doctrines and what is in and out, and what is allowed and what is not allowed. So those things change, but I do think that the scriptures are divinely inspired, and that I know this for a fact from reason, rather than because some men say so. But I don't think the Bible is the only inspired text.
What reason leads you to conclude that it must be inspired?
It's true. It's true in a very deep metaphysical sense. I have an objective concept of truth, that there is a truth about truth itself, and I have that concept, and I recognize that concept in the Bible in general, not just the teachings of Christ, but even if you go back to the Old Testament, there's a surprising amount that's just true. And by true, I don't mean it empirically happened. I don't know if Genesis is a literal empirical story.
But I mean, what is
I
the
think
reason?
It's
You said you know by
because
reason
it's true
that these are truths.
Yeah, metaphysical.
But what's the reason?
That I have a concept of the truth of truth. So you know how people have like the theories of truth, right? So like what they mean by these things usually is that they have some arbitrary correspondence, either from a concept to a thing, or a thing to a concept, or a concept to a concept, in a coherence theory or whatever, or the pragmatist thing, an activity that corresponds with some purposeful end. Basically, my position on that is that, just like morality, truth is being. So you have to look at the metaphysics of being, and you do that by the only thing that is the relationship of pure being, which is what you would call thought normally, but it's not just what's in your head.
But why the Bible and not the Quran?
Have you read the Quran? That is one of the most retarded books I have ever wasted my time trying to read. Like, that is so clearly made up by somebody who had like no fucking clue.
It was written by a scribe, wasn't it? Like orally.
No, it was orally dictated. Yeah, it was orally dictated,
written
across
by another guy.
Many people. It was written across a long time by many people who were scribes. And they didn't even have this thing called a Quran. They had different people had different pieces all over the place. They had to put it together after he died.
Well, the same thing is true of the Bible.
Sure, these things.
To put it together and decide what is
these things had to be put together. Yeah.
So it's that there are internal inconsistencies within the Quran?
There are huge inconsistencies, and the Quran is stupid in that it tries to make like scientific claims that are just like false and like provably false, because it's just based on ideas that were floating around at the time, it's a very obviously constructed human text. Whereas you read something like the Gospels, and I know that you wouldn't know this, but when I didn't have this position originally. I got into philosophy, and I didn't really care about God. And through philosophy, I came to understand there has to be God. And I was a pantheist. But, pantheism is basically a form of atheism. And so at the time I was like, well, okay, sure. There's an ultimate reality. There's an ultimate truth, whatever. But it's not a person. So why call it God? Eventually I came to the position that no, this has to be a person, just rationally required. Because if there is an absolute, if there is an ultimate unity, it has to be unified with itself. And it can't be formally unified. It has to be completely unified, which means that it has to be a self-acting process. And activity is what is originated in an agent. There is no origin of the activity of the world other than the world itself. There's nothing outside. It can't be mechanical or deterministic in that way. So the universe, whatever you want to call it, has to be a self-acting agent, and that's exactly what a person is. And the structure of knowledge is just a structure, pure structure itself. So, the knowing of the universe is just the structure of the universe itself, which is the entities in it themselves. It's called intellectual intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized many of the structures of that in the Bible. It's not just only in the Bible, but the Bible has the most important final structures of that, which other religions and positions and mysticisms don't. But like I said, I don't think the Bible's the only inspired text. I think the Tao Te Ching is inspired. I think some of the Indian texts are inspired. I think Buddhism in part is inspired. I think the Greek philosophers themselves were inspired.
The Muslims believe that about the Greeks.
Yeah, so did the Christians. Justin Martyr believed that before the Muslims. He was 2nd century.
Did they? I've never heard that. All I know is the Muslims will posthumously have adopted certain figures into their claim that they were proto-prophets or however they describe it.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I think Muslims are idiots.
Well, they do that. Whether or not, whatever else they believe, they do that. I think the Shias do it more than the Sunnis.
Yeah, the Shias are the philosopher guys.
Yeah, and they have they do a lot about that. I don't know about the new Ayatollah, but the last Ayatollah was very into Plato and had a Platonic degree, which I thought was interesting. Because their version of the Greeks is very, very different from us.
Yeah, they're Neoplatonists. They're very much into it because they think it coheres with their philosophy of the unity of God, but it actually doesn't. Because
their version
the Quran
of Plato is different than ours, which I found interesting. They would describe Plato very, very differently than a Westerner would.
Yeah,
they have different translations of it. You didn't. So you feel like you just have a moral and you have an intellectual intuition that when you're reading the Bible that it feels true, that it just.
It's not that it feels true. I know that it's true. I recognize very clearly the structures of truth in it, and by truth I don't really care that it empirically happens.
Like that it's logically sound.
Yeah, it's not formally sound. It's content form sound. It's true. True, like your dog is truly a dog,
But you don't think someone could have written that without divine inspiration, just hypothetically?
No. Believe me, when you meet somebody who pretends to think and who's trying to force something into a structure, it's very clear. You can't fake it.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were schizophrenic, or again, hypothetically.
It doesn't matter.
They don't need to be faking it.
They
don't need to be lying.
Totally fine. Schizophrenics can also be divinely inspired. I've listened to a guy who said incredible truths, and I was like, this guy doesn't even know what the fuck he's saying, but what he's saying is insanely deep.
Okay, so you think there are certain kinds of truth and reason that humans are incapable of independently, and must be handed down by God.
I think anything that's an a priori truth is not subject to humans. Humans
well, then
basically
how
have no
can we
access
evaluate
to
it to be true if we
could
never
your mind is a priori, that's why to be human is already to be an a priori thing. When you say that, what I think you mean and what I'm interpreting is that you're talking about the empirical worldly senses of human understanding, and that's just the animal senses. Animals don't understand shit. So humans don't understand shit by that nature either.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the very idea of causality, the ideas of forces, all metaphysical ideas, which are just these structures of reality, be they dynamic or static, they're all inspired. Humans can't make them up. It's impossible. Humans can't make up concepts. Not possible. Whenever humans try to make up concepts, it's so obvious and like they're so shitty, like they don't even function.
So it needs to be either come from senses or from. It needs to be come from into the mind divinely. If it cannot be seen, if it cannot be witnessed in sense, it needs to come.
Yeah, my position is that thought itself is divine. Like, if you think, it's because you already have a supernatural standpoint. Like, animals don't think.
Well, I'm going to leave. It's late. It's just past midnight where I am now. But I did find much of what you said interesting and worth looking more into. I do need to read Kant. He's extremely important.
Well, I have on my profile. There's my websites. You can check them out.
Oh, okay.
I have a lot of material already.
I found your distinction of what is aesthetic, what is like tasteful for humans, and what is moral. That distinction sort of interesting.
I have an essay particularly on veganism. You can look it up. It's
okay. Like, well, I'll consider it. Have a good night.
Anyways, man, talk to you some other day. See you around. You can tell me your own version. I'll listen to it.
Okay. Goodbye.
See you. Hello, Scott. Oh, well, I guess if you're not going to say anything, it's goodbye, Scott. Anyways, I probably need to go to bed. But hope you enjoyed the discussion. See you, man.